That's the play of the game in yesterday's game. Wasn't the play that decided it, but the play of the Brewer game. 2-1 lead in the eighth. Dustin May pitches a gem. 48 hours, less than 48 hours after Logan Henderson pitches a gem. That didn't matter either. Chad Patrick couldn't get it done, so let's bring in Aaron Ashby with runners on. Which, I mean, it's not like they have a lineup of elite relievers, but I would have preferred, not Aaron Ashby in that spot. Grounder to first base. Ashby doesn't get over. And then when asked about it after the game, can we get that one more time here from Pat Murphy? Kurt Hogue asking the question, hey, what did you think about the Ashby play?
What about the Ashby single for Cronenworth in the eighth? Is there anything that you can do there?
It's been going on. We're going to just...
That's been going on. Idiot can't get over to first base. So we'll start with the Brewers. Very frustrating loss yesterday. Reminiscent of Monday night's loss in that kind of one you'd really like to have. You got a gem from your starting pitcher and you had a million opportunities to win. Just a game you, again, would really love to have. I understand you're going to lose some games. It's a long season, 162. That game is one you'd, again, can I make this any clearer? You'd really like to have, just like on Monday, a game you'd really like to have. At least get one of them. Getting swept with that performance from Logan Henderson and that performance from Dustin May, who was outstanding yesterday. Pretty frustrating. So that's where we will begin a lot of football talk today. It's the Bill Michaels Show. Welcome in. My name is Grant Bills. Andy Herman, going to be here in about a half hour, 35 minutes. He'll be here for the final hour or the final segment of this hour to get ready for Packers Steelers tonight. We're going to hear a little bit from Aaron Rodgers. He had a Zoom call with the Packers beat yesterday and hit on some very, I don't know. I'm almost glad that this is a preseason game, because they can just kind of BS about his past, his time in Green Bay, what's it like being with McCarthy. Where if this was a regular season game, be a little bit more, let's ask about this part of your offense that's succeeding or not succeeding. We'll talk about this matchup. Like, it's just kind of a Aaron Rodgers and the Packers beat reporters conversation. So we'll hear that probably in hour number 2. Jesse Temple will be here. I had Jesse on my show last night. Jesse's busy today. So I said, we'll just do one hit. We'll do it last night. I can replay it for Bill's audience tomorrow. And for those of you who might hear it twice, apologies. Thank you for listening to both the shows, by the way. But you'll hear that Jesse Temple conversation. Really good stuff. Some reaction from practice. Eugene Hilton Jr. continues to really impress. So hopefully that's an additional playmaker the Badgers have this year. The likes of which they've kind of been missing. I think lost in it all. They haven't. The NIL hasn't been there, and the coaching hasn't been good enough, and the schedule's been hard. I think lost in it all, and I've had Zach bring this up with Bill. I think he's brought it up on all of our shows. They just haven't had that many studs. They've had some nice players, but hopefully, maybe Eugene Hilton can be one of those guys. Eugene Hilton Jr., wide receiver, just keep stacking good practices. So we'll discuss that with Jesse Temple. Mike Clemens will preview Packers Steelers tonight in the third and final hour of the show. So he'll be here for the last couple of segments, the Mike Clemens special. I'll take your calls if you want, 608-321-1670. And for those of you on the live stream, all the normal channels that Bill's show streams on, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, LinkedIn, Kick. I think Bill has invented apps that I've never heard of to stream the show because it's so easy to consume and just so present for all of you. So thanks for everybody who watches over there on the live stream as well. The play of the game yesterday was that play that I played in the intro. It was the 8th inning with the Brewers having a 2-1 lead, 2 outs, runners on, Aaron Ashby inducing a ground ball to first base. I don't know how, but that has to be an out. Or at the very least, that has to be a play on which a run doesn't score. What happened just cannot happen. And maybe that means Jake Bauers just puts his head down and dives for the bag. I think he would have got there had he committed to that right away. Maybe that means he lets that ball go. Bryce Terang gets it. Jake Bauers retreats to first. I have not watched the play, and I've tried to watch as little of this team as possible this week. I mean, I was watching it, but I haven't got back and watched the replay. I don't know where Terang was positioned. I don't know if we would have been able to get that ball. Not sure. Or here's a novel idea. Aaron Ashby gets his thin, wiry ass over to the bag because, as Pat Murphy's mentioned after the game, that tends to happen a lot with Ashby. This is just something that we have to deal with because he doesn't feel like getting over to first base when he knows he needs to get over to first base. So that was the play of the game. I think that play was the not the choke point, not the breaking point. Now, what's the word I'm looking for? Doesn't matter. That play of the that was the play of the game, and Pat Murphy said it in his post-game presser yesterday. Boiling point? That's really going to bother me. I can't think of the phrase I'm trying to think of. Pat Murphy called that the play of the game. Not really the story of the game, not really the story of the team right now. The story of the team right now, as we discussed yesterday, is this offense sucks. And every time I point that out, Brewers fans get a little frustrated with me on the internet or on the text line, and they like to point things out like, well, there are 27 games over 500. How can the offense not be good? Grant, they're 5th in runs scored in Major League Baseball. How can the offense not be good? And when people say things like that, look, if the only thing that matters to you is where the standings fall and where the Brewers are over 500 relative to the Cubs, oh, okay, fine, sure. Like if you just wake up every morning and check the standings, Brewers are in first, having a great season. Okay, if that's the only thing that matters to you, great. I appreciate you listening to the talk show. I don't know that sports talk radio is for you because what we do on sports talk radio is talk about the game that just happened yesterday or last night or this afternoon. And if you don't care to talk about a team on a day-to-day basis and react to all the wins and losses, then I'm not telling you don't listen to the show, but you need to recognize that you're viewing things a little bit differently than a lot of us who have a daily talk show and participate in a daily talk show, right? So if you're like, well, how can this offense be bad? They're in first place. Less every day, by the way. They're in first place. They're 27 games over 500, and they have the 5th most runs in Major League Baseball. Grant, why are you being such a whiny bitch? Okay, like I get this a lot on the internet. The Brewers since the All-Star break, by the way, have had 3 or 4 massive stinkers offensively, like no-show stinker offensive games. And I think one of the defining things about the Pat Murphy Brewers over the last couple of years, you can care about this or not. I don't know that this matters a ton, but I've started to think over the last couple weeks that it matters more. The Brewers don't have a lot of no-shows under Pat Murphy. They don't have a lot of games where they're just blown off the field. And you can find stats to back this up. You know, they have very few runs or very few losses by a margin of 3 or 4 runs or more. Like there's just a lot of stats where the Brewers don't get blown out. They don't no-show. They don't have non-competitive efforts, right? The Brewers in the second half have a couple of the grossest, stinkiest offensive games. Games where they're getting shut out and they only have like 2 or 3 hits. It's like, were you guys even interested in being there? Tuesday, July 21st against the Mets, they lost 4-0. That was one of those games. San Francisco, Monday, July 27th, they lost 3-0. That was one of those games. They lost another game in San Francisco, 16-3. That was one of those games. They lost to the Angels on August 2nd, 3-0. And if I go look at the box score here, if memory serves, it's not like they hit a bunch of balls hard. It's not like they racked up a bunch of hits and got unlucky. They actually had 5 hits in that game, which is more than I thought they would. So there's 3 shutouts so far. They've had a lot of games and 2 this week. Monday against the Padres, they scored 2 runs, but I think they only had 3 or 4 hits, and both of those runs came on a Christian Yelich home run. They are a Christian Yelich opposite field swing away in that game from being shut out. And then losing 2-0, like they scored 2 runs, and then yesterday they scored 3 runs, but I would argue that the 3rd run was only because, well, my God, they got 2 extra innings to do it. This offense really since the middle of June, but really since the All-Star break, has just been stinky. Kurt did a really good job writing about this at the Journal Sentinel today. The Brewers offense has scored plenty this year, he writes, but is it good? I like the framing. He says, what took place in San Diego was almost bewildering. The Milwaukee Brewers, you watch get swept. This is not the team we have seen for 4+ months this year, with one mental mistake after another compounding until the final swift blow in the form of a walk-off to complete the sweep was dealt. Yet, it still isn't as confounding as the Brewers offense at large. So this is my thought too. Like, yeah, yesterday was a gaggy, gross game, and the Aaron Ashby moment was probably the story of the game. But the overarching theme, the bigger thing with the team right now is the offense. Kurt writes, 121 games into the season, a question of, is the Brewers offense good? Could elicit a more split reaction in Wisconsin than anything short of the governor primaries. Nice tie into current events, Kurt. Well done. Fill a room of baseball people, and they'd agree on whether steroid users should be in the Hall of Fame before they came to the same side on the matter. The new collective bargaining agreement may even be reached before we have an answer. You want to call it bad? They've scored more runs than all but 4 teams in baseball. You want to call it good? Watch their at-bats for the last month or so and get back to me on it. This is what drives me nuts. And guys, I'm trying to watch my tone to start the show today because this is really the first Brewers rough patch since April. The sky is not falling. I just get triggered about baseball. This is what bothers me. Is on my show or on Bill's show, I'll point out like, hey, I'm worried about the team. I don't think their offense looks very good. Well, what do you mean? They've won 2 series in a row. Grant, why are you so negative? You know why? Do you know why? Because I'm watching every single game and I watch the game and with my eyes in my brain, I go, it doesn't look right. Doesn't look very good. So, you know what? I appreciate Kurt writing that in his story. You want to call it good? Watch their at-bats for the last month or so and get back to me on it, he says. At its core, trying to understand the Brewers' offense, trying to understand what the Brewers' offense is, comes down to a battle of numbers, and more specifically, which numbers, against a gut feel and some history. More often than not in baseball, the numbers win out. The Brewers, more than perhaps any team in the league, are evidence of that. They aren't reactionary. They stick to a process steeped in what their information tells them, and in the end, they win. That's what makes their offense such an enigma. If you had been told at the beginning of the year that they would be among the top 5 scoring offenses in baseball in August, you either would have unequivocally accepted that and run with it. Yet, just as undeniably, there is a disconnect because we have eyes connected to our brains. Yet after years of running into the same issue that slammed the door on their season, this year's iteration of the Brewers feels a whole lot like those offenses. Those offenses, to be clear, weren't bad. They were 3rd in Major League Baseball in runs last year and 6th the year prior. That is why there is an enigma, or this is an enigma. Those Brewers teams got by in manufacturing offense, quality at bats, and grinding an opposing staff down. This year's offense, in theory, is predicated on the same principles, which is why Sal Frelick has spent the last 4 months yelling, drag him, at teammates in the box. The Brewers are pretty good at it, the numbers say. They're 2nd in baseball in walk rate. They chase less than any other team. They see as many pitches as anyone. But there's qualitatively an aspect that simply is missing, not just because of one series in which they went 3 for 28 with runners in scoring position either. Watch the offense day in and day out, and the lack of real power threat seem to hamper them. And I don't even know that it's a lack of real power. I'm fine with an offense that doesn't hit a lot of home runs. They've won a lot of games playing that way the last couple of years. I mentioned this yesterday. The Brewers, historically under Pat Murphy, have been winning very good, or they've been very good at winning games. I use the phrase by hook and by crook. You've heard this expression before. By hook or by crook, we're going to find a way to win this baseball game, right? Well, I don't think their hook and their crook are as good this year. They strike out more than they should. They strike out a lot more than they should. They have the 14th fewest strikeouts in baseball, or the 16th most, which is to say they're average. Which doesn't sound bad until you consider they hit almost no home runs. So striking out an average amount is way too much. Their defense is below average. They've kind of been a mess on the base path recently. They strike out a ton. They're always behind 0-2. Yesterday was better. They made Jacob Webb work. Not that they did anything with it, but they actually got an advantageous counts, for the first time in a while. The Brewers could very likely be fine and still win this division. Doesn't feel like it right now. I told you at the beginning of last week that if Chourio and Contreras don't play better than they had been, they're not winning the division. And I still feel that way. Contreras, went 0 for 4 with 2 walks yesterday? Chourio 0 for 5. They intentionally walked him in, was it the 11th? Imagine being 0 for 5 and getting intentionally walked. Okay. If you want to join to talk Brewers, I have a couple more thoughts on this. And as we trend towards the later segments of this first hour, we're going to switch over to the Packers because Andy Herman is going to be here at 10:40. So that's coming up. Call or text. Phone lines are wide open. I won't make you wait if you want to talk baseball. 608-321-1670 to you right after this.
Ready? This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Chopper, first base, got to get over. Bowers feeds Ashby. Cronenworth is safe. Tatis scores, and this game is tied.
What about the Ashby single with Cronenworth in the 8th? Is there anything that you can do there?
It's been going on. We're going to just, I mean, you've seen that in his career maybe 4 times, maybe 5. And it seems like it always comes at a critical time. First baseman got to die for the base. You can't leave it up to Ashby again.
Welcome back to Bill Michaels Show. I was genuinely very curious to hear what Pat Murphy would say after the game last night about the Aaron Ashby play, because it is a tricky in-between play. And I think there's an argument to be made where it's like, well, Bowers just has to get to first. Because if you watch the replay, and it's easy to do in slow motion, or it's easy for us to do at home, I think he gets to the bag if he just breaks for it. And you see first basemen, sometimes they dive and they go glove first. We've seen Vaughn do it a couple of times. So I wouldn't have been surprised at all to hear a baseball manager after a play like that, Pat Murphy, say, well, it's a tough in-between play. Ashby's coming off the mound as a lefty, and, Bowers has it, it's just a tough in-between play that didn't go our way. But no, he basically interrupted Kurt's question. He interrupted Kurt's question and said, oh, it's been going on. Loser doesn't cover the bag. He didn't say it like that. That's how I heard it. That's how I interpreted it. Give it to me one more time.
What about the Ashby single with Cronenworth in the 8th? Is there anything that you can do there?
It's been going on. We're going to just, I mean, you've seen that in his career maybe 4 times, maybe 5. And it seems like it always comes at a critical time. First baseman got to die for the base. You can't leave it up to Ashby again.
It's been going on. Always happens in a big spot. Just can't leave it up to Aaron Ashby. This has been my developing Aaron Ashby take. I think he is a very good pitcher with very good stuff. I think the rotation on the ball, right, when he's on, I think he's nasty. I think he's a very good pitcher. I also think, at the same time, he is one of the bigger losers in professional baseball. And I think those two things can coexist. I think you can be a brilliant pitcher or quarterback or receiver. You can be a brilliant athlete with high-level ability, and you can be really good at what you do. And then you can also be a loser, which means that you're not always successful in what you're doing. You know what I mean? I just think Aaron Ashby is just kind of a loser. Meaning, if it's a big spot, like he's gonna find a way to not make the pitch he needs to make in that big spot. This is why I would really try to avoid bringing Aaron Ashby in with guys on. And I know sometimes they have no choice. Uribe was down yesterday, so I understand. Sometimes you got to bring in a guy in a spot. It's not a perfect spot for him. You got to do it anyways. That's baseball. I understand. But in a perfect world, I would never bring Aaron Ashby in with men on base, and I would never use him in a save opportunity. Because again, I think he's a very good pitcher. I also think he's a loser. So if you give him the opportunity to worry about guys on base behind him, he's spiking 2 balls to the backstop. He's Mr. Wild Pitch. If it's the 9th inning and there's something on the line, like there was against Atlanta earlier this year, good luck, buddy. Like, good night. He's a 6th or 7th inning guy, clean slate. That's how I would use him. I would absolutely not. The fact that he is used as a fireman when there's any other opportunity, I would have gone to McGill. Here's the thing. If McGill was able to pitch 2 innings yesterday, go to McGill in the 8th with 2 outs. If McGill is pitching as well as any reliever in Major League Baseball right now. Go to McGill in the 8th for a 4-out save then. The fact that Aaron Ashby gets used in fireman duty, meaning runners on, we're in a pinch, you need to come get a strikeout. Aaron Ashby, what's his, I'm not going to pull up his FIP or anything like that. His whip is, oh my God, his whip is 1.4. Oh my goodness. It's got a 1.43 whip. And his ERA is through the moon. And I think for relievers, a bad month or a bad stretch can, but just watch him, But I think he's got nasty, nasty stuff. Great breaking ball. Coming from an arm slot and an angle and in a speed you don't usually see from a lefty. I think he's a really good pitcher. I just think he's a pretty big loser. I used to say at the beginning of this year, I was like, I got a small L loser. Not great with pressure. You can maybe get away with it. After yesterday, big time loser. I don't trust him with men on. I don't trust him in a spot where there's anything on the line, insofar as there's anything ever on the line in a baseball game. Like, yeah, in a 1 or 2 run game in the 6th or the 7th, sure. In a save situation, no. I'd rather have Chad Patrick. I'd rather have Shane Drowan. I might rather have Brandon Sproat. I'm not being dramatic. Because I just don't trust him when there's stakes, when there's stress, when there's anything on the line, when there's runners on base, when it's a save opportunity. No, dude is just mentally not there. Brilliant pitcher. Lots of talent. He's always had the talent. There's a reason that the Brewers gave him that extension when they did. The Brewers love his talent. And they should. He's a high-level talent. Really good pitcher. Just a loser. And I think you saw that yesterday, not getting to first base. You saw that, with men on base time and time again this year where he just starts spamming wild pitches, giving guys moving him over, getting them in. Or that save situation in Atlanta when they flipped McGill and Ashby, earlier this year. And Ashby has like that never looked like that was going to end any way other than the way it did. He came on, put a man on, gave up a solo or a home run just like that, like 1, 2, 3, bing, bang, boom. Like you would have drawn it up. Just brutal. So Aaron Ashby, very good pitcher, loser. And those two things can coexist. You know what I mean? Like I think James Harden, unbelievable basketball player, kind of a loser. Those two things can coexist in an athlete. And Aaron Ashby is putting up stats. He's having a good year, although his numbers wouldn't tell you right now. But we've seen him have lots of good appearances and help the team. James Harden's done that. It's just, do I want him out there in a crucial moment with the ball in his hand? Oh, my God, absolutely not. No. Lord, no. No. I'd rather have anybody else. 608-321-1670. Bill Michaels Show. Who's this?
Hey, man, this is Steve. How are you?
I'm doing good, Steve. How are you?
Good. I agree with your comments on Ashby. I think many times the Brewers make their lineup decisions based upon contract and control of years and all that stuff. Because I was thinking Ashby might be one that would be dealt in a deal. He's got good stuff, like you said, and maybe there's a value of somebody and trade him. But I think they have him under contract control for a few years ago, for a few years from now. So I think that might be a reason why they hang with him. I agree, it's disappointing. My question for you is, who is a better shortstop? Hamilton defensively, Hamilton or Ortiz?
Oh, Ortiz. It's not close. And I don't understand. I assume you're going to ask why they were playing where they were yesterday. I don't know. I don't know why they were aligned that way.
Yeah, so part of my point is Murphy can slump too. What are you doing having both of them in that lineup at the same time and having Hamilton at short? And look at, I know this is hindsight, but look what happened. I mean, when I saw that lineup, I said, this is crazy. And it kept.
No, go ahead, Steve. Sorry.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I cut you off. Go ahead and finish your thought. Sorry about that, Steve.
It's those kind of mental errors. Combine that with the fact that, I mean, it's just really, baseball is real simple. If your hitters aren't hitting, you know, you're not going to win. And their lack of confidence is so apparent. They're not aggressive in the count. They fall behind 0-2 all the time.
Yeah.
They're undisciplined again. They're swinging at bad pitches. I mean, when your best players, and I'm talking Churios, Terrain, Contreras, Yelich, when they get one hit a game, maybe you're just not going to win.
Correct.
And that's really where they're at. They're slumping at the plate. I mean, I used to coach Little League, and I say, I don't want anybody going down with a called third strike.
Right.
You need to be aggressive. You might have little chance of hitting the ball, but you have to swing to hit it. And they're taking called third strike in key situations. They're slumping in all aspects of the game. And
yes, I appreciate it, Steve. I'm just behind. Sorry. So you're right about all this. I understand when Garrett Mitchell's taking called third strikes because he's a little bit of a looky-loo. He can get stuck with a bat on his shoulder. When Jackson Churio's taking called third strikes, it's like, okay. So the guy who swings at everything, like you can just tell the offense is pressing right now. I agree with you, Steve. Thanks for bringing up the Ortiz-Hamilton thing. It's not what costed him the game, but why? Ortiz is excellent at both third and short. David Hamilton is bad at short, pretty good at third. Like that's pretty, you have to play them both because Cooper Pratt's hurt. So Terang's playing second, unless you want to play Bay, and I wouldn't. Why would you after Monday's game? Or I guess Tuesday's game, the Kyle Harrison game, although Bay wasn't that good. You know, I would rather play Hamilton, Ortiz, Terang, but why not just put them in why not put them in their best spots? So I'm with you on that. Their offense is slumping. Absolutely. A couple more of your thoughts after this. I just want to break on time because we're going to get to Andy Herman at 10:40, and I don't want to be running late out of, deference, out of respect to Andy. So we'll be right back. If you're on hold, I'll get you right after this.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
All right, welcome back to Bill Michaels Show. Gonna have a quick segment here. Got about 5 minutes because Andy Herman's coming up. I told him 10:40. It's gonna end up being like 10:43, 10:44. Sorry, Andy. Andy with Pack a Day Podcast. He'll join us, do a little Packers Steelers preview. And I want to ask him, hey man, what are these preseason games? Someone who covers the Packers and talks about the Packers more than anyone. He does it every day. What do these preseason games really mean? But I want to take one baseball call first. Thank you for waiting through the break. 608-321-1670. Bill Michaels Show. Who's this?
This is Pete.
Hey, Pete. What's going
on? I'm so glad to hear you and Bill finally talking about looking at too many pitches, and always the first one. Most pitchers want to get ahead of the hitter. Their best pitch is going to be the first pitch. Why can't the Brewers do that? And is it time for Murphy to make adjustments in their hitting?
Well,
don't look at too many pitches. Hit the good one.
I think it's this balance, Pete, because you want to put together, they want to have long at bats and see a lot of pitches and make the pitcher work. But it feels like they're also always down 0-1, 0-2. And that's a really, they're behind the 8 ball before they really even dig in for the at bat. So I wonder also if other teams are wising up like, hey, these Brewers hitters want to see a lot of pitches. You can get in front of them early because they're really hesitant to swing. You know what I mean?
I would sure think so. I mean, they're professional baseball teams. They can figure it out. They've got scouts.
That's true.
And the other thing is, if they're last in home runs, I would expect them to be top 5 in the fewest strikeouts.
Yeah.
They're not even good contact hitters.
No, I think they're 14th, which is a little better than average, but for a team that doesn't hit home runs, that's not good enough. Absolutely right. Yep.
No, I miss the days of Tony Gwynn and Ichiro and these guys that were hitters, not just swingers. Yeah. And my last thing is, where did Jared Kaney go? Is he like permanently on the DL, or another left-handed arm
I'm
that was
not
good last year.
So I'm not sure if he's down at AAA rehabbing or if he's on the injured list again. Thank you for waiting through the break, Pete. I appreciate the call. Some really good points. I'm not sure on Koenig. I'll get that for you. If he's in AAA rehabbing, he's not doing it at a high level, because typically when there are players rehabbing and trying to get back to the major league level and they're playing well, I'll see clips. You know what I mean? Like, and another good outing for so-and-so as he's rehabbing. He's lost. I wouldn't count on Koenig being back this year, but I'll get the latest and I'll circle back to that in the next hour after Andy. You're right about how baseball has changed. I brought this up, might have been yesterday or the day before. It all starts to run together, man. I don't know. But it seems like back in our day, Pete, I don't know, you're talking about Tony Gwynn, and like I could even go back, 10, 12 years ago. Hitting was a little bit more of an art. There were plenty of guys who struck out, and there were plenty of guys who hit home runs, right? That was still a thing. But there used to be a skill to hitting the ball where they're not, plugging a gap, finding a piece of grass. And I feel like a lot of baseball hitting analysis today is, hey, hit the ball hard and hope it ends up in a good spot. You know what I mean? And if a team hits the ball hard and hits it right at someone, a lot of times the reaction of the announcer is, well, he hit it hard. Tough luck. Like, oh, okay. All right. Yeah, okay, so you hit the ball hard. That's part of hitting. It's a big part of hitting. Could we get it up over the infielder? Could we take it the other way? Could we find a gap? It just feels like the game has been reduced to good and bad batted ball events. Are you hitting it hard or are you not hitting it hard? And if you hit it hard, just cross your fingers and hope it ends up somewhere good. It kind of feels, I know it's not that myopic, but it feels like it's trending that way, Pete. Really good call. Appreciate it. Thank you for sitting through that 5-minute break. Sorry to make you wait, but I wanted to make sure we got to Andy on time. Andy Herman, the Pack-A-Day podcast, will join us next. Quick segment. We'll talk Packers Steelers on the other side.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Hey, Chuck, tell the people of Madison why DLC is amazing.
For 28 years, we've had one simple, transparent signature loan for up to $5,000 that we process in less than an hour. We lend cash at our local locations or electronic instant funding at don'tbebroke.com. It's always free to apply, and some folks just want to find out how much they qualify for so they know later down the line when they need the cash. We don't require good credit, collateral, or a checking account. We lend more, charge less, and allow the customers longer to pay the money back. At Dollar Loan Center, we love to say yes. Oh yeah, new customers get their first week's interest free, and the daily interest rate on a $500 loan, it's just $3.78. You can do the math from there.
Well put, Chuck. That was a lot. You can find everything at don'tbebroke.com.
License and regulated by the Wisconsin Department of Financial Institutions. In and out based on biweekly pay rate. Greater than 275% for additional. 350 subject to approval. Limitations may apply. See website for details.
Shopping for new windows and doors shouldn't feel like a negotiation. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin doesn't believe in games. They never inflate pricing, and there's no high-pressure sales pitch. Just premium windows and doors built for long-term comfort, beauty, and peace of mind. Buy direct through Pella, and one trusted team handles everything with Pella certified installers every step of the way. Real pricing, premium quality, no games. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. Schedule your free in-home consultation today at PellaWI.com.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Bill Michaels Show, welcome back. Bill's out in Sturgis. He'll be back Monday. So you're stuck with me. Mike Clemens will be here in the final hour of the show as normal. A couple segments with some comments from Packers coaches and players this week. We'll preview Packers Steelers tonight. He's in Pittsburgh. He told me that he finally arrived at his hotel at about 4 a.m. No rental car, and the flight was delayed, and he didn't have a lot of nice things to say about O'Hare Airport. I'll just say that. So maybe we'll get a little bit more from that from Mike later on into the show. Let's get to Andy Herman Pack-A-Day podcast. Sorry, Andy, I'm a couple minutes late. Appreciate you being here.
How dare you?
I know. So you talk about the Packers as much, probably more than anyone's Pack-A-Day. You do it every day. So I'm sure you are excited to have a football game, a preseason football game to kind of feed the machine. Between you and me, how much of this game matters? How much of it is worthwhile? And how much of it is just like kind of preseason slop that really doesn't mean all that much, even if we spend time talking about it? You know what I mean?
Yes, all of the above. It matters in certain aspects. It matters for guys like Nasir Stackhouse. It matters for guys like Jonathan Ford. It matters for, the cornerback battle, some of the offensive line battles, especially the depth along the O-line. Those things legitimately matter. I mean, that's what preseason for, is to get a better gauge of some of those back of the roster players that you're trying to figure out, guys 46 through 53 on the roster, maybe who's your number 4 wide receiver, number 5 wide receiver, those sort of things. So it matters from that standpoint. It matters that you start getting the feel of what it's like to prepare for a game and go to Pittsburgh, travel and get some of those things. I think all of those are sort of dress rehearsal type things that matter. As far as the actual game itself, as we kind of talked about on the podcast for today, the score, the outcome of the game, what the team actually does on the field. There's no game planning. You're not putting your starters out there for a significant period of time. You've got a mismatch of guys where there might be ones with twos with threes with fours. And like all of these guys are not players that are always going to be playing next to each other. There's a lot of, even if you have a couple of the starters out there, if there's a couple of non-starters, like they may not be at the same level or on the same page. So it's a hodgepodge of things that look like football, but aren't always football. So it's fun to see them out there. It'll certainly generate some stuff for us to talk about, which is great. And again, it is important for some of the back of the roster guys as they try to make this team. But in the actual outcome of things, think of last year when the Packers lost to the Bears in the playoffs. Nobody was like, you know what, that second preseason game or that first preseason game, if they just would have been able to clamp down a little bit more and play a little bit better in that one, everything would have changed. No, it's mostly irrelevant once the regular season comes along.
What position group on the roster do you think has the most up in the air currently, the most to be decided over the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, I think offensive line for a variety of different reasons. I think that starting right guard spot is completely up for grabs. We have to see Aaron Banks come back. Otherwise, that left guard spot could be, interesting as well. And then I just think the entire depth after number 5, who's your first guy up off the bench on the interior? Is your swing tackle going to be Anthony Belton? Is it going to be Darian Kennard? And then just who makes it as like the 9th and 10th guys? Is it going to be John Williams? Do they even keep 10 guys? Who makes it on the practice squad? I think that's completely up for grabs. I think corner is another one where we saw Keyshawn Nixon have to battle it out with Benjamin St. Juste this week, and those two switching off. Now in the very last practice a couple days ago, it was completely Nixon with the 1s and St. Juste with the 2s. So maybe that's done. But Valentine will get back next week. Kamal Haddon is just getting back and practicing with team. Damani Jackson isn't back yet. Jalen Simpson is at a fantastic training camp. So there's going to be quite the battle there for some of those depth spots at corner. And then, at the edge position too, probably not so much. Well, even like back of the roster, I think guys like even Nigel Lee Kelly and Aaron Mosby, because he's so good at special teams, are fighting for a spot. And I think Colin Oliver and Brenton Cox are going to have to fight tooth and nail. I expect Cox to be on this team, but there's no guarantees there for anybody that's not named LVN, Barron Sorrell, or Denai Dennis Sutton. Those 3 are going to make it. But even outside of that, like once LVN, we know he's probably going to be the main guy. And once Micah comes back, those will be the main 2. But after that, it seems like Barron Sorrell will be the 3, but he's still going to have to stave off everyone else, because I think that competition is going to be very close as well.
I want to go back to the O-line, but first, since you mentioned Lucas Van Ness, it's probably nothing. So tell me that it's nothing, because that's probably what it is. But I listened to Bill Huber ask LaFleur about Van Ness last week, and he basically, after family night, I don't know, I'll have to look at the tape. And then he followed up with him after Matt LaFleur had presumably watched the tape, and he kind of, again, gave a very short answer. And then I saw you sharing that he was running on the kick return on Monday. Like, is there not concern, but what are you seeing from Lucas Van Ness? Because just those last couple comments from LaFleur, it's not like he was gushing. It's not like he gave long, descriptive, excited answers like he's had, done for other players.
There was some buzz early in camp that LVN was having this really great camp and that he was starting to flash in it
early. Yeah.
I didn't see that. It's not to say that it didn't happen. It's very difficult to keep track of 22 players when they're all in the field at the same time and who's doing what. You're sort of results based when you're kind of looking at everything that's happening. But in fact, I would argue that there have been training camps prior that I thought LVN stood out more than this training camp. My take on LVN so far is that who he looks like? Lucas Van Ness. He looks like Lucas Van Ness. And I thought there was a slight step up last year in his play overall, despite, when he wasn't hurt and things like that, or working his way back from the injury. It did feel like he took a little bit of that step, but it wasn't like all of a sudden, oh my goodness, he's clearly living up to the top 15, draft pick, and he's going to be this dominant pass rusher. He looks like somebody who still is working to develop a pass rush plan that is, going to get a lot of hustle sacks. It's going to work hard. That's going to set the edge as a run defender. And he's going to be a plus player for you, but he's not going to be a game changer. And that's what I've seen so far. As far as the special team stuff, I wouldn't read too much into that. We do see Xavier McKinney, Javon Bullard, Edrin Cooper, amongst others, on special teams from time to time. And that's always that age-old battle of, hey, how much do we want these guys on the field? But we want our special teams to be good. So there's always a little bit of a push-pull. I think getting him time there in practice, just so that if they do need him, he knows how to play a couple of those spots, is probably not the worst idea. And I think it's probably a little bit more realistic once Micah gets back that he could be on teams. I think once Micah's out, like, he has to be probably playing a ton for you. So I don't think I think it's much ado about nothing for now, but I'll just add on top of it, I don't think LVN's having like this insane camp where it's like, oh my goodness, wait till you see him on the field. He's going to break out in this significant way. And I really hope I'm wrong about that.
Okay. Andy Herman is here, Pack-A-Day podcast. Back to the O-line. I think 4 or 5 years ago, I gave the Packers every benefit of the doubt on the O-line, who they drafted, where they played them, the decisions to re-sign or to let go. Like, I just think they had it dialed. And I don't know that they've become bad at the O-line, but they've had some missteps or some things that I've questioned the last couple of years. Has the bloom come off the rose a little bit with the O-line? Are they just on a bad run recently with some bad luck? What are you seeing with the way they're handling that position?
Well, sometimes, and it's not like they're just depending on late round picks, but this is a team that's been drafted and developed along the offensive line and depending on, some mid to late round picks to be able to be successful. It's actually kind of funny because when they did that, they were usually pretty successful. Even Sean Ryan in the 3rd round, Zach Bakabawele, what was it, the 4th or 5th round? Like, those are the ones that are kind of working. Whereas the 1st round pick, Jordan Morgan, the 2nd round pick, Anthony Belton, those are two that are maybe a little bit more of kind of the question marks. And they go out and spend huge free agent money on Aaron Banks. And that's, again, maybe one of the bigger question marks. So their big investments are the ones that haven't panned out quite as well. But to your larger point, it did feel like they just had this secret sauce. And I thought, honestly, it was one of the most underrated and best like hidden secrets in the NFL was it's almost like the Brewers pitching lab. It's the Packers had this offensive line lab where they could find any of these guys, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round, get them in the system, let them sit for a couple years. The Josh Sittons, the TJ Langs, the Adam Timmermans going all the way back, the Marco Rivera's, the Mark Tauschers. And it just felt like they could draft and find these guys anywhere and they would turn them into big time offensive linemen and be successful. And I don't think, obviously, that that's been the case as of late. You know, with the idea of trying to get your best 5 out there, I don't think they've always got the best 5 out there. I don't think it's been something where they've also had that secret sauce figured out either. So I think it's still a work in progress. And I think it's the most important aspect of this team right now, in my opinion, because I think this team can be a top 3 offense if the offensive line plays well. And if they don't, I think you're going to look at a very similar inconsistent offense where on 3rd and shorts, in the red zone, on key 4th downs, where they're going to struggle because the offensive line is just too inconsistent. So it is the 1A on my list. And this is a huge season for Adam Stenavich, Luke Butkus, and that entire group to kind of get that figured out, and those guys playing at a high enough level.
Well, the offense last year, big picture, if you efficiency or EPA, like the offense was excellent last year, even though the O-line was bad and they couldn't run the ball. And the offense was still really productive. Limited possessions and the situational stuff wasn't as good, but I don't know that they need an otherworldly O-line. They can't stink or they can't be stinky. I don't know that they were garbage last year, but they just nothing close to what we had come to expect for such a long time in Green Bay. You know what I mean?
Just inconsistent. And there is reason for optimism. Jordan Morgan has looked good in camp, and it does feel like he is settled in and just feels so much more natural at left tackle. And Rasheed Walker was just bad last year. So there's a real reason to believe that left tackle can be an upgrade. Aaron Banks, when he was not healthy, he did not play well. When he was healthy, actually played pretty well. And in fact, I thought his game against the Bears in the playoffs, I thought he was one of the better players for Green Bay in that game. So hopefully that's a sign of things to come. Unfortunately, he is not healthy, so that's not a great sign so far. But if he can be going into the season, I do think that he can be a solid guard for you. Sean Ryan got moved to center midway through, and I thought all things considered, handled that well. He now gets a full offseason to learn and kind of master that position a little bit more. There's every reason to believe that at minimum it's going to be better, and he pretty much solidified that spot when he moved into it. So if it's better, that's a great sign. And Zach Bako-Boele missed so many games, including the important ones at the end of the year, that just him getting back, it's like having your ace in baseball. When you've got your top guy out there, everything else kind of clicks into place. When your ace is gone, well, now your number 2 has to be a 1 and your 3 has to be a 2, and everything just kind of crumbles a little bit. Having him out there is going to be so important. So there's reasons here to be optimistic. Even right guard, you at least have options. I don't know if any of these are good options, but you've got Belton, you've got Jager Burton, who's kind of made some waves so far and is a potential guy there. Jacob Monk's getting some buzz. Donovan Jennings, Darian Kennard. There's multiple guys at least that can play there. I don't know if any of them are good, but at least we're going to have some options to figure it out and see if it's one of those guys can take that spot and own it.
Okay, lastly, we got about 2-3 minutes. I asked this to 2 guests yesterday, Bukowski and Renner. I got 2 very different answers because they both feel very differently about Quay Walker. How much room for improvement in your mind is there going from Quay Walker to now Zaire Franklin?
I was pretty skeptical of the Zaire Franklin trade. When I initially watched the tape, I was not super impressed. He's coming off what most would consider his worst season in Indianapolis a year ago. He's a year older. He's in his 30s now. And you traded a young interior defensive lineman who was a pretty decent rotational piece for you. And now you're paying him like $10 million where Colby Wooden was not getting paid anything. I was pretty skeptical of that in general. And I thought there were some good free agent linebackers on the market. Of all the players, there's maybe like Jalen Simpson's been really impressive coming out of nowhere and doing as well as he has. But of like the kind of key players, there's nobody that's caught my eye more than Zaire Franklin so far. He completely looks the part. I think the tag team with him and Edgerrin Cooper is going to be a perfect tandem. I think they complement each other incredibly well. I think because of Zaire Franklin's steadiness and his ability to call plays and be a leader, I think it's going to allow Edgerrin Cooper just to free flow and do everything that he does extremely well. I think it is a very, very good tandem. I still question some of the coverage stuff with Zaire. I do still question, again, sometimes the sideline to sideline speed, but he has been on it. His awareness, his ability to shoot gaps. I've been super impressed with Zaire. So I think there is an opportunity for this to be better in 2026 than it was with Quay Walker in 2025. I need to see that on game days and come the regular season, but I'm at least much, much more optimistic than I was when they first acquired him.
I think some of the off the field stuff too, or some of the stuff that's not, related to speed, tackling, hitting, wearing the green dot. Mike Clemens said the other day, it's great. It's like having another Xavier McKinney. I'm like, oh, that's
for sure.
That's not nothing. And now that guy gets to play next to Edgerrin Cooper for, a year or two. which can only be good for him long term. Andy, I appreciate it. I know tonight, how many times are you going to watch this preseason game, do you think?
Well, I'll do the actual watch. I'll do the condensed version rewatch right after, and then I'll do the grading of every play on the all 22, which will take me a couple days to get through. So the answer is too much. I will watch this far too much.
That is the right answer. Anytime, any number that was greater than 1.5-ish is too much. Enjoy.
Any number over a half might be too much, honestly. But yes,
that's true. Enjoy your time. Have a great weekend, Andy. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you, friend.
Andy Herman, the Pack a Day podcast. Very good. Joining us for a couple of minutes on the Schneider Orange hotline. And Bill will be back, like I said, on Monday to give his thoughts on the game. I doubt Bill will have watched it as many times as I'm probably not going to watch the whole thing. I got to help my brother move some stuff tonight. So I'm going to watch, and we'll recap tomorrow and we'll talk about it. Andy watching TV copy, condensed version, all 22. Good luck with that. So subscribe to the Pack a Day podcast, because God knows Andy is earning it. We can recap and debrief on some of the things that we just discussed with Andy. Coming up next as we begin hour number 2 of the Bill Michaels Show. First, an update from our illustrious and wise morning show host, Ebo, our host of Over the Line. 2 minutes, the headlines. We'll be right back.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, yesterday the Milwaukee Brewers would get swept in 11 by the San Diego Padres, falling 4-3 in extras. Gary Sanchez would homer in the second. He also would double in the go-ahead run for Milwaukee in the top of the 11th, while starting pitcher Dustin May would go 7 innings, giving up 4 hits, 1 earned run while striking out 6. It would be Antonio Senzatella who would take the loss, though, in the 11th to finish the game. The Brewers now sit 3 games above the Cubs for first place in the NL Central and will continue on with their West Coast road trip. Pitch coming at their preseason slate starts tonight against the Steelers out in Pittsburgh. It will be the first game for many players, including rookie offensive lineman Yeager Burton. Unlike college or the regular season for the NFL, there is no true game plan in place for the Packers tonight. It could be rough for some, but Burton says it's pretty freeing for him.
I don't know. In a way, it is kind of exciting just to be able to go out there and not have to think and kind of just cut it loose and play. It kind of feels like a high school type of mindset in that way of the no game plan stuff. So I'm excited.
Quarterback Jordan Love also expected to play at least a little bit tonight, though how many snaps the starters will get remains to be seen.
For nearly 40 years, ABC Wisconsin Apprenticeship has been helping men and women transform themselves into highly skilled trade professionals. These skills are in demand and provide strong wages and benefits for a bright future. If you're a hands-on person who likes the feeling when you get projects done, apprenticeship could be for you. Go to buildyourcareerwi.org or just search online for ABC of Wisconsin.
Wisconsin football had a scare yesterday at practice as offensive lineman Michael Rescue was taken off the field and to the hospital as a precaution for further testing after being injured during an 11-on-11 period. The Badgers, though, continue on to practice today for fall camp as they prepare for their September 6th matchup at Lambeau Field against the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. For the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network, I'm Ebo.
Hour number 2, the Bill Michaels Show. Welcome in. The show's flying by. Great spot with Andy Herman to conclude hour number 1. Jesse Temple going to be here before the show is over today. We're going to hear from Aaron Rodgers, who met with the Packers beat yesterday over a Zoom call. Very entertaining. Some great reminiscing. We'll get to that. And Mike Clemens will be here in the final hour to give us a full preview of tonight's game, combined with a recap of what's gone on this week, where the players are trending, who we expect to play, who we should be watching, all those types of things. We look forward to that. If you would like to join, let's debrief on a couple of the Packers items that Andy just hit. Give me a call. I won't make you wait. 608-321-1670. Can text and call. A couple Brewers texts, and I'll circle back to those. We will get to the Brewers a little bit more later on in the show, but with Andy at 10:40, let's stick with the Packers here for a little bit. Interesting to get his thoughts on Lucas Van Ness. I brought this up to Bill on Monday. And I pardon me, I can't remember if I played these cuts for you yesterday. It might have been on my show in the evening. It all runs together. But I saved earlier this week 2 comments from Matt LaFleur about Lucas Van Ness, just because, just something that kind of caught my ear, just something that jumped out to me a little bit. So Matt LaFleur, I'll play these for you. This is kind of what got my antenna up. Matt LaFleur on Friday night after family night was asked by Bill Huber, "Hey, what'd you think about Lucas Van Ness?"
What'd you think of Lucas's night? Van Ness.
That's tough for me to tell right now without looking at the tape, but he seemed disruptive.
Okay, he seemed disruptive. Matt LaFleur then asked 48 hours later, now that you've had time to watch the film, what'd you think?
I asked you about Lucas Van Ness after the scrimmage on Saturday. What'd you think of him? Not you got to go back and watch.
Yeah, I thought he did a lot of good things, and he's got to keep on building on his performances.
Maybe Matt LaFleur wasn't in the mood to talk. Maybe he was just trying to get through. Maybe. Or, just spitballing here, he gave a very short answer because he felt that, well, that's all the player really deserves to have said about them right now. Yeah, he looked good, but he's got to keep being good. He's got to keep doing good things. One more time.
Yeah, I thought he did a lot of good things, and he's got to keep on building on his performances.
Reminds me of the time I asked Pat Murphy, when was his first year? 2024, spring training. I remember asking Pat Murphy about Aaron Ashby because Aaron Ashby was coming back off shoulder surgery, and he kind of figured to challenge for a spot in the rotation or be a contributor on some level. And it was one of the stories I was more interested in spring training because they had extended him like he was a significant part of their future. So we thought at the time, and I guess he, for better or worse, has been here over the last 2 years. And I asked Pat Murphy about Aaron Ashby, and he basically gave that type of answer. It was probably 5 seconds tops, and he said something like, "Yeah, he's getting healthier and he's pitching better, and he's going to have to," like, that was it. And I'm like, ooh, that's telling. Now, I don't think Aaron Ashby contributed at the major league level that year, and he did last year. It was in a relief role. It was very, yeah, he's good, but he's going to have to continue to get better,
He's got to keep on building on his performances.
For contrast, by the way, just trying to, read between the lines, get an idea for why Matt LaFleur is saying what he's saying about this player or that player. Here's Matt LaFleur about Jacob Monk. Now, Jacob Monk, I believe, was what round was he taken in? It was a later round, wasn't it? Jacob Monk. He played for Duke. Jacob Monk was a 5th round pick, and he was selected in the 2024 NFL draft. So it was 2 years ago. He's been with the team for 2 years, right? Correct? I think. In any event, 5th round pick who has not exactly lit the world on fire the last 2 years. In fact, I barely played at all. Hasn't really done anything. Matt LaFleur asked about Jacob Monk. This is what he had to say. Listen to this answer.
Yeah, I think you talk about a guy that plays to the play style that we want. He shows that toughness, that grittiness, the strain. And I think he's done a pretty good job inside. So he's a valuable guy. He can play any of the inside 3 positions. I thought we saw a glimpse of what he's capable of doing last year when he got some action, especially significant action in that Minnesota game at the end of the season. And I thought he performed well.
Man, he embodies what we want to do. He's so tough and he's gritty, and he represents the type of football we want to play. As opposed to Lucas Van Ness, who is a 1st round pick, a blue chip 1st round pick, top 15 pick.
Yeah, I thought he did a lot of good things, and he's got to keep on building on his performances.
And that's all. Just very short. And it's interesting to hear, if you missed it in the first hour, I asked Andy, Matt LaFleur didn't seem to really take an opportunity to speak glowingly about Lucas Van Ness this last weekend. What gives? And if you missed the hit, Andy said, well, it's funny because a lot of people said at the beginning of camp that Lucas Van Ness was really flashing and really, showing some stuff. And I didn't really see that. I didn't really feel that. In fact, I think he's looked better in previous training camps. So Andy basically said, yeah, I don't know. I'm not really seeing it right now. I don't know. I'm worried about the Lucas Van Ness thing. And yesterday when we had Renner on, God bless Mike Renner, but he's like, I think he's got a really good chance to have a really good Rashawn Gary type career. It's like, oh, I can't do this again. I can't tie my team's hopes and dreams at edge rusher to another Rashawn Gary. This one taking, 4 years to come around instead of just 1 or 2 like it took Rashawn Gary. I don't know. I really hope there's something more. The rest of that Packers edge room right now, and there's a bunch of interesting young players, some with draft pedigree, some not so much. Brenton Cox Jr., who I think we mostly know who that guy is. Bottom of the position group guy who can pop and maybe give you a play or two every couple of weeks, special teams guy. Denai Dennis Sutton, who's blue chip traits up the wazoo. Aaron Mosby, who I'm not so sure. Colin Oliver, who's drafted, missed most of last year with an injury. Micah Parsons, clearly, but Barron Sorrell, Lucas Van Ness. Like these, I'm just wondering who's popping here. If you look on the interior, like what about McClellan, Stackhouse, Wyatt, Brinson. Like I'm just looking for year 2, maybe year 3 guys who have a little bit of a potential to take a jump, take a big pop. And I don't know that Lucas Van Ness, just based on what we're hearing, what we just heard from Andy, I don't know if he's near the top of my list. What's so frustrating about Lucas Van Ness, I talked about this earlier in the week, is look at the rest of his draft class, man. Like look at who was selected right before and right after him. It's studs. And I know right after him, the Steelers took Broderick Jones and the Commanders took Emmanuel Forbes. I'm not really judging the Packers and grading the Packers draft selections against the control of the Steelers taking O-linemen, which they notoriously stink at, and the Commanders because, well, gesturing broadly, the Commanders are just kind of dumb. Well, at least you're not the Commanders or the Steelers. Great. Hang the banner. The Packers are not the Steelers. The Packers are not the Commanders. But Jackson Smith and Jigba went, 7 or 8 picks later? Helped his team just win a Super Bowl. Christian Gonzalez was taken after. Helped take his team to a Super Bowl. He's going to be paid at the top of the corner market, which, interestingly enough, I don't know that I'd want to pay a corner at the top of the market, but I would like to have had Christian Gonzalez on the team for the last couple of years. You know what I mean? Like, I think that would have been helpful. I think they would have been a better team with Christian Gonzalez than Lucas Van Ness. Jack Campbell was selected after. He's been really good. Zay Flowers was selected after. Really good. Maybe if the Packers were willing to bounce up a little bit, and I'm not blaming them for not bouncing up, but I know Brian Gutekunst has a penchant to do so. Jalen Carter went 4 spots ahead. Darnell Wright went 3 spots ahead. Both of those guys have received top of the market extensions. Really good. I mentioned Christian Gonzalez. I mean, hell, even the Will McDonald, the player that the Jets got in the trade with the Packers when Aaron Rodgers went over there. They swapped picks. The player that the Jets got has been better than Lucas Van Ness. So it's frustrating. Not to make this another Lucas Van Ness segment. It's just, I'm not hearing a lot of glowing things.
And he's got to keep on building on his performances.
Coach Plio guy on live stream said, didn't they just give Lucas Van Ness a 1-year extension? Yeah, they picked up his 5th-year option, which that's all fine and understandable. I have no problem with that. Developmental player, project type selection, fine. My problem is like, what's the end goal here? He's a developmental pick. Okay, that's fine. No issue with that. At the end of this development, will he be Nick Perry or Rashawn Gary, or will he be a game-breaking, game-changing, game-influencing player? Because that's what would make this worth it. Because the Patriots have just been, succeeding with Christian Gonzalez. The Seahawks have just been winning Super Bowls with Jackson Smith and Jigba. Like other teams have just been doing that thing. And the Packers have Lucas Van Ness, and it's like, well, he's a developmental pick. Yeah, but developing to what? To what end? Where's it going? We talked about this with Renner. I'll get his comment specifically on this, and we'll come back on the other side. I'll give you that. If you want to jump in and talk Packers, 608-321-1670. Another thing that we talked about with Andy, the settling, or I guess what's the word I'm looking for? Not the confusion. The current state of the O-line is rather up in the air, let's say, right? You're Zach Baco Boeli at right tackle, Jordan Morgan at left, your center. The guards are up in the air, and left guard is up in the air just because I don't know if Aaron Banks is ever healthy. Right guard is as wide open gets. So these preseason games, I think, are great opportunities, especially for Jacob Monk, Jagger Burton, Anthony Belton, who everything I read about Anthony Belton is he's trending the wrong way. He is not showing up and popping in year 2, at least at right guard, like maybe the Packers were hoping or thought that he could. I kind of hope that Anthony Belton just ends up the swing tackle and they have better options at right guard, and Belton can train at tackle because I feel like he might translate a little bit better there anyways. It just seems like linemen who don't have a role, they just play him at right guard, and you can play right guard. Well, actually, no, that's a specific position. Not everyone can just play right guard. Let's take a phone call here, 608-321-1670. Bill Michaels Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant, it's John from Jersey, my man. How are you?
I'm doing great, John. How you been?
I'm pretty good. This is the pizza John, not the other John.
I like that. Let's go. What's up?
I'm glad I joined. I just turned you guys on, and or you on. And I'm telling you, I've been saying this for a while. Even, what's his name agrees with me. What's his name from Delaware?
Gerard. I was going to say probably Gerard.
Gerard. Oh, my God. I talk to him off the air all the time. I forgot his name. We got to get Josh Sweat. I'm sorry, man. If this is what we need to do, I'm with you. Lucas Van Ness, Sorrell, we don't know what he could do. Van Ness, I think, is garbage. I really do. Sweat wants to play for Gannon. He wants to be here. Why don't we just get him? Give up a number 2. Who cares?
Ooh, I wonder what it would take. I haven't really even thought about what it would take.
I heard it 2, plus he has a big contract. I know that.
He has a big contract. You'd give up a second-round pick for that guy?
Yeah, of course. Yes, I would. We don't know until Parsons comes back.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be a nightmare.
I don't
know.
So
I'm too cranky, but
no, John. No, never too cranky. Never. Appreciate the call. Nice to hear from you. Here's the thing. Here would be my concern. If I thought that Josh Sweat was the difference between this team ending in the division round or the conference championship and winning a Super Bowl, then I'd probably agree with you, John. And getting good players is never a bad thing. Right now, I don't think the Packers' only question mark is on the D-line or at edge minus Micah Parsons. I don't know that they have championship-level talent on the O-line. I don't know if they have championship depth at wide receiver. Or honestly, I don't know if they have championship high end. Like is even if healthy, is Watson, Reed, Golden, are those 3 good enough on the high end to win a Super Bowl? I don't know if they have running back depth, tight end depth. If I felt like they were practically perfect, John, at every other position, and they just needed another horse on the defensive line, then I might agree with you. Now, I think we get caught up, and I think we get a little trapped wondering, like, well, is this the thing that's going to put them over the top? Because you're not that trade doesn't exist. You're never going to know whether the trade is a difference between championship and coming up short. In fact, those trades mostly don't exist because that's not really how sports work. So I never want to use this logic as reason to not make a trade. Well, still not going to be good enough. It's not going to put you over the top. So why do it? Because trades really aren't designed mostly to put you over the top. You need internally to have a really good team. And then the trade just kind of improves you along the edges or just supplements what you already have. Like if a really bad team traded for Micah Parsons is not going to make them a Super Bowl team. The Packers' hope is, hey, we have this thing built. Now we just add Micah Parsons and that'll bring it all together. I'm less worried about the Micah Parsons, or as you mentioned, John, the Josh Sweat of it all. I'm more worried about everything else. Like has Brian Gutekunst built enough depth and built enough high-end talent at some of these other positions to make a second-round pick for an aging Josh Sweat on a big-time contract worth it? I guess that would be my concern. And that's the concern in terms of all these trades and all these sports. That's always the conversation we're having. Like, is this the trade to put them over the top, or are we just want our team to do something? Which is a little bit of a trap because, again, I don't know that those put you over the top trades exist. We'll take a break. We'll circle back to this, talk a little bit more on the other side. It's the Bill Michaels Show. Aaron Rodgers at the bottom of the hour speaking with the Packers beats. Really good conversation. I'm looking forward to sharing that with you, but a little more Packers talk next first.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
You look at a draft pick and you're like, well, pick wasn't a home run, but look at their other options. You know what I mean? Like what else were they supposed to do at that spot? And there's plenty of draft picks like that. The 2023 draft, that first round's, I mean, it's loaded top to bottom.
I will say, though, right after their pick, you have Broderick Jones, complete bust. Emmanuel Forbes, utter bust. Like, we're not at that territory with Lucas Van Ness.
Sure.
This is a very serviceable to potentially good player this upcoming season at a valuable position. So if that's your quibble, it's better to hit a lot of singles and doubles in the draft than to strike out a bunch and hit a couple home runs.
A little bit more from Mike Renner yesterday on Lucas Van Ness. Serviceable to potentially good player in Lucas Van Ness. It's like, but that's not what this is supposed to be. It's a top 15 pick. It's supposed to help. Supposed to hope for something a little bit better after 3 years than serviceable and maybe good. And I'm not yelling at Mike Renner. Just I'm not super thrilled with where they are with that player. And I don't know that, again, he's blowing people's doors off at camp. And that's really going to impact the ceiling of that defensive line and that edge rusher group this upcoming season. Aaron Rodgers spoke with the Packers local media yesterday. It's a pleasure. It's a treat to listen to. So we'll listen to that together here at the bottom of the hour at 11:35. But first, take a couple phone calls. 608-321-1670. Bill Michaels Show. Who's this?
Steve in Menominee.
Hey, Steve. What's going on? I love Menominee. Go Mustangs.
Hey, I was down at the Packer practice, and I've watched Lucas Van Ness also, but somebody's got to stick up for him today.
Okay.
I watched him go through the drills, and I watched him hit that dummy, that big dummy in the field.
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you, when he hit it, it hit the ground. You heard it. the whole stadium there heard it. You know, the crowd there.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody else had that kind of power. The reason why he's not up to par, but he's not a bust, maybe it's the coaching. Maybe we got to get something out of this milquetoast attitude down there and put some fire in these guys.
I like this.
Anyway, that's just my take, and somebody's got to stand up for the guy today.
No, I appreciate that, Steve. Thanks for calling. Thanks for listening. All right, so Steve's eye test says Lucas Van Ness has looked a little bit better than people are saying. I think it depends on the day. It depends on what drill. It depends, I'm not telling you you're wrong, Steve. It's just interesting to hear. Look, I didn't roll in today expecting to crusade against Lucas Van Ness. I asked Andy about him. I said, hey, Matt LaFleur gave some short answers over the weekend on Lucas Van Ness. Had an opportunity to maybe sing his praises and didn't. What gives? And Andy, unprompted, basically said, a lot of people were gassing him up to begin camp, and I never really saw it. Never really looked like that to me. Okay. Steven Menominee says differently. Okay. All right. I just find it interesting. A little bit more from Mike Renner yesterday on Lucas Van Ness, and I just have the full file here. So apologies. I'm kind of picking for where to start and where to pick. You were obviously all over to Lucas Van Ness.
Like Van Ness.
What he thought about the pick. I want to go all the way back. The extensions because they're top of the market players. You know what I mean? Here.
Yeah, I think it's going to work out, though. I'll just say I think they end up extending him. And I
Van
think
Ness.
What he had flashes last year that he never had his rookie year or second year in the NFL.
Okay, that's good.
Like there was actually him looking like he knew how to operate a bull rush in a way that first and second year in the NFL was nothing short of disastrous. He was just a placeholder out there. He was just a big athlete. And unfortunately, you knew that going in, right? They drafted him knowing that he wasn't even a starter at Iowa, right, along their defensive line. Played half on the interior and half on the edge. It was a weird pick to begin with. That was always kind of, we need this guy year 3 or 4. So this was always kind of the timeline when they drafted him in the first place. And I saw flashes to where, I think it can work out because he's 270 and runs a 4.58, and that's what it. If you want a bull rush at the NFL level, that's a good starting point. Not even a good starting point. That's an elite starting point for a bull rusher at the NFL level. So just teaching him how to do that. And we saw it a handful of times last year. If he can just do that, you can have a Rashawn Gary-esque career. Because that's pretty much what Rashawn Gary hung his hat on when he really was at his best. So I think it'll work out. But as you said, it's hard pill to swallow when you're hoping year 4 it starts to work out. You really the guy hasn't even developed into a true starter yet for them.
Well, here's the problem. I'm Mike. I'm a patient, and patience is a virtue. I went to Catholic school. We had the walk for virtues every spring. We all wore shirts and we talk about the virtues. I am patient. The problem is if the payoff is Rashawn Gary, that's a fine player. Mm-hmm. But in waiting for Rashawn Gary, who's very good, not even great, there are multiple players selected after Lucas Van Ness who have helped their team win or go to Super Bowls. That's the tough part. What do you remember about that draft and that draft pick at the time? Because you were obviously all over it as a draft guy. What did you think of that pick in the context of where it took place?
I liked Van Ness. I think I had him right there. Same spot on my draft board. He was somewhere between 10 and 15 on my draft board that year. So I liked him, but you just have to know that edge rushers, high-end edge rushers, don't hit free agency. You cannot go find them in free agency. You can find 33-year-old end of the career guys who might still have something. That's your best bet of finding a true edge rusher. So if you need one, you're going to have to draft one. And probably about 9 times out of 10, if you want a high-level one, if you want a Micah Parsons who went 11th overall, if you want a Will Anderson who went 3rd overall, if you want an elite guy, they go in the top 15. You know what athletes work at that position and what athletes can actually do it. So it made sense to do it with their timeline and just with how the Packers approach the draft. You draft the valuable positions early on. You draft the tackles, you draft the edges, and you hope by year 3 or 4 they work out, because not a lot of teams are bad at tackle and edge because they couldn't retain their tackles and edges. They're bad at tackle and edge because they couldn't find them in the first place. So finding them is the hardest thing. And more often than not, it just takes investment. And so they invested in it. And I think, like I said, it'll ultimately work out. It's just frustrating when it takes 4 years for that to come to fruition.
So our full exchange yesterday on Lucas Van Ness. And by the way, everyone on the live stream making fun of Steve's observation, hitting a sled doesn't matter. Well, you guys get your can to camp there and then give me your observation. You can't rip Steve's observation from training camp. He's the one down there with his binoculars and his notebook, getting his peepers on these guys. So you guys get off Steve's back over there on the live stream. Oh, he hit a dummy hard. Yeah, that's Steve was down there. Firsthand account. Is that you're sitting at home on your computer commenting on which thank you for listening, by the way, and being a little facetious. Of course, it's just hitting a sled. But I think Steve was pointing out what the Packers loved about Van Ness and why he was selected in the top 15, despite never having started at Iowa. But that's because Kirk Ferentz and Iowa are weird. It's not because he wasn't any good. He wasn't as polished. Iowa also just has odd preferences for the way they do starters, which, by the way, was covered extensively on this program and on our network at the time because Ben Kenny, who produced Bill's show before me, was such a college football sicko. And about how Nebraska and Iowa are conducting their business, we had like the perfect Lucas Van Ness consultant in the building. But everyone still brings up, well, we didn't even start at Iowa. Yeah, that's because Kirk Ferentz is a dinosaur, which, by the way, I would take. I'd prefer a dinosaur to what UW has become, which we'll discuss, by the way, next hour. Jesse Temple will be here, Badger Connect. When we come back, however, Matt LaFleur, not who we're listening to, Aaron Rodgers is the one we are listening to. That's what I meant to say. Spoke with the Packers beat yesterday, and some great reminiscing. I really enjoyed it, the little pieces that I listened to last night. So we'll listen to it together. Coming back, it's the Bill Michaels Show in just a couple minutes. Aaron Rodgers.
Ready? This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Hey, Chuck, I see you have a 4.8 review rating on Trustpilot. Nice.
Our staff is so proud of their over 8,000 stellar reviews on Trustpilot. One of the best reasons to do business with Dollar Loan Center is our amazing bank-like locations and real, live, friendly staff.
I know your Madison customers just love your staff.
And so do I. We're so different than the average payday, check cashing, or title loan joints. We lend more and give more time to pay back. Look, our locations are amazing, great music on, and you immediately feel comfortable and welcome, like banks used to be. Another thing we do that banks used to do is actually lend money.
Dollar Loan Center loves Madison and lends up to $5,000 in minutes. Stop by in Janesville, Beloit, and Beaver Dam to meet our real friendly staff. You can also apply over the phone or online at don'tbebroke.com.
Licensed and regulated by the Wisconsin Department of Financial Institutions. Subject to approval, limitations may apply. See website for details.
Shopping for new windows and doors shouldn't feel like a negotiation. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin doesn't believe in games. They never inflate pricing, and there's no high-pressure sales pitch. Just premium windows and doors built for long-term comfort, beauty, and peace of mind. Buy direct through Pella, and one trusted team handles everything with Pella-certified installers every step of the way. Real pricing, premium quality, no games. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. Schedule your free in-home consultation today at PellaWI.com.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
We're going to reminisce a little bit. It's the Bill Michaels Show. Welcome back. Before we listen to Aaron Rodgers, can I just puff out my chest a little bit? When there was some uncertainty about whether or not Aaron Rodgers is going to return to Pittsburgh, especially after we knew Mike McCarthy was hired, I remember being at the Combine, chit-chatting with some of our friends who cover football around the league, some in and around Green Bay, some elsewhere. And I would ask people, wow, do you think Rodgers and McCarthy are going to team back up? And so many people, no, not a chance. Not a chance. I said, I don't know, man. Rodgers is a romantic. He's a reminiscer. You're telling me he doesn't want to hang out with James Campen and talk about the times they spent in St. Norbert's dorm and pranking Brady Papinga? Like, are you sure? And everyone's like, no way it'll happen. No way. People who've covered this sport for decades now. No, Grant, no way. Okay, all right. Well, here we are. Aaron Rodgers and Mike McCarthy have teamed back up. Here's about 15 minutes. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers beat yesterday. Doing a little reminiscing on his time back with the Packers. Oh, not this. I wish so. Good song. A little LRB. Here's Rodgers.
Have you ever thought about how much easier you made it for Jordan to take over for you than what you dealt with that summer? Tausch was saying today that he thinks you gave Jordan the best transition any quarterback in the NFL has ever had. How do you view that?
Because it was a little contentious on the way out. Is that?
I would say more than a little, probably for you on when Brett was on his way out, and you made it way easier for him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like take any pride with that. Feel like I did him a favor or anything. obviously ready to move on, and so were they. We had similar trajectories, being 3 years as a backup. So there's less of a grace period for both of us that we had than, other quarterbacks who maybe get thrown in year 1 or year 2. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't the best ending there. And because of that, I'm sure it was probably easier for fans and backers to get behind him more than the push-pull of 08, where, Favre in late June said he wanted to come back, and then there was a whole summer of Willie Woney, and then he shows up on family night. And yeah, it was probably a little easier transition, but I don't take any credit for that. It just played out the way it played out.
Aaron, how you doing? Do you kind of wish this game was in Green Bay? I know you're not going to say you want to feel all the appreciation from fans and all that stuff, but with last year's game being in Pittsburgh, would it kind of have been nice for a send-off of sorts if this were in Green Bay?
100%. 100%. When I heard that it was possible to play both my former teams, I was really hoping that this one was going to be in Green Bay, not just to get back at Lambeau one more time, but, to head out to Chives for a dinner and maybe, head out to Green Bay Country Club for a quick 9 or something. But, yeah, I was really hoping it was going to be in Green Bay for a lot of reasons. It would have been strange being in the locker room and stuff, but I would have found my way over, like many former players have over the years, find my way over in the Flea's office and hang out back there and see some of the guys and see some of the trainers and the equipment staff and all the people that I really care about that still work there. So yeah, I was definitely bummed out that we weren't in Lambeau for this one.
All right, we'll go with Rob.
Bobby,
Rob,
you're
you're
muted.
muted.
You're muted.
Aaron,
Aaron, appreciate you doing this. Good to see you. Knowing Matt LaFleur and Jordan the way you do, what do you think Jordan has to do to sort of let Matt really cut him loose at this point and maybe build it around him less than maybe sort of the running game like he's done in the past? Is Jordan, I guess, is Jordan at that point, do you think, from what you've seen?
Yeah, I mean, this is his 4th year starting now, I think. Is that right?
Yep.
I think with every year you get a little more confidence. Obviously, your body of work is a chip on your shoulder to kind of use at any time to say, look, I've done this. I've made plays. I've won in the playoffs. I've played at a high level. It just comes down to communication part. I think the biggest jump for us was in the 20 off season, when we had all those phone calls over and Zoom calls, where you start to take that ownership of the offense and tell them exactly what you want. I think as a young player, it's natural where you feel like, I can't maybe put my stamp on this one or push too hard. There's still that balance of the authority figure and the peer, relationship. And I think that's the beauty in the league, is that you are peers. There's still that hierarchy, and you have to respect that. But the more you can use your voice to tell them exactly what you want when you want it, the smoother it ultimately goes. And the best coaches can understand where that's coming from and not take it personal and allow that to kind of shape some things. That's where me and Mike got to that, but it wasn't early. It was years of working through things and having success. And I felt like by the 3rd year, he trusted me enough, because that was our 5th year together, that if I said something, it wasn't just I was trying to push back against them, or I was trying to do some sort of measuring. It was because I firmly believe that this is what's going to help us win or be the best on this play. And I think part of the reason why Mike and I had so much success is because we had such a great push-pull relationship, where he could just let me go sometimes. And then sometimes he'd have to call me in on a Monday and say, listen, you changed 10 plays. Can we just go through why you changed these 10 plays? And we'd talk it out, and he'd see my side and I'd see his side. And we always kind of met back in the middle on that. And I think that was the beauty and the success that we had, was it was a lot of push and pull. He gave me the latitude. I proved that I deserved latitude and could make it work. And when I went too far, he would rein me back in.
Thank you.
Bill?
Yeah, how's it going?
There
I am. I'm in Door County, so you know how that is. There may or may not be internet ever.
So
Yes.
I'll cut to the chase. It's to Matt's question. Have you thought about what it's going to be like to come back in 5 years when you're in the Hall of Fame and you come back for the number ceremony and all that?
Well, there first has to be an invite back, so we'll
I
see
assume
about
you'll get
that
one.
We'll see about that. Yeah, I mean, I'm always going to have such a strong tie to Green Bay and the organization, and if that comes to fruition, that could be a cool deal.
All right, let's go with Stephanie, WISN.
Hi, Aaron. How are you doing?
Yeah, good.
Good. I'm actually calling you on an airplane on the way to Pittsburgh right now. But I want to ask you, other than the football and the fans, what do you miss most about Wisconsin, and what are you looking forward to when you actually come back to Wisconsin again?
I miss my house. I had a great house out there. I had a gate that had 8 acres. I had great backyard. I had a great house. I really enjoyed. I love that house. I miss Chives. I went through, started going there, a long time ago, back in 05. And when I lived in Hunter's Run, it was right down the street, it seemed like. So a lot of great times there, with family, with friends, with teammates, birthday parties there, a lot of great memories at Chives for sure. And then, just great golf all over the place, a lot of fun stuff to do. The falls there are just awesome, when the weather gets that cool little nip. I love the night games at Lambeau, especially the Sunday night and Monday nights and occasional Thursday nights. Just so much fun. But there's nothing like that crowd. You've been other places. I knew that when I was in Green Bay, but there's nothing like that fan base and the way they travel and the crowds at home and players around the league. They talk about how special it is to play in Lambeau, and sometimes, you might miss that or forget about that when you're playing because it becomes so normal to have such an amazing crowd, and they're tailgating and they're loud and they rarely sell their tickets to other teams' fans. So, a lot of great things about Wisconsin, and I grew up there. Really became a little more mature as an adult over the years there, and had a great time, and still have a lot of close friends there and a lot of fond memories.
All right, let's go with Mike Clemens up top.
Hi, Aaron. There'll be 100
Hi.
questions about great memories in 5 years for you, but the one I've got today is a little serious because tomorrow night I'm going to be thinking about the summer of 2015 at that field and how big of a loss Jordy Nelson was for that season, and your thoughts in your presser yesterday about, should the league listen to a guy like you, and is there something we can change here where the GMs can still evaluate players, but the games are all worth something? What do you think is there one or two ideas you could leave them with?
First of all, change the prices. I mean, some of the prices for these preseason games without a lot of starters playing seems a little exorbitant. But, an old teammate of mine, Brady Papinga, I remember said this years and years ago, but it's basically what I said yesterday. To me, the most important evaluation film should be the practice film, because you're going against, if you're in the one group, you're in the two group, sometimes you're going against some ones, but you're running the entire playbook. And there's so much fear around the league of competitive advantage in these preseason games. Nobody's running anything. And I think you see that now in the joint practices where they used to be, I say the first couple of years we did them, it was great work because you were going against teams that were running their installs and they weren't afraid to show things. But then with the nepotism around the league and different coaches on different places and the families of staffs, people are so afraid to show anything in practice because now you have that on film. Well, this is what they're working on. This is the new stuff. This is the defense. And now you're playing, Jonathan Gannon tomorrow night, and he's obviously putting in a first-year system, but we don't expect them to do any of the stuff that they're going to see in week one, and that's just the way it goes. And we're not opening the playbook either. We got 8 installs plus all the miscellaneous things we put in. We're not going out there and showing the entire playbook, and that's just the way it goes. So what is the value of it? It's to see how guys react under the lights, when it becomes real, when there's actual tackling. But what's the value of it? I don't think it's super high, because in 15 we lost our all-pro wide receiver, and we still went 10-6 that year and won a playoff game. But if you remember at the end of that season, the last play, we had Jeff Janis, Jared Alvarez, and James Jones running down there to catch a Hail Mary because Tay was banged up all year, and Cobby punctured his lung in the game, and Jordy was out since preseason. So there's not a tremendous amount of value that I see in it, but I'm not sure what the right thing to do is with that. They would probably, the league would say, well, we'll take one away if you just give us an extra regular season game.
All right, we've got time for a few more. Lance?
Aaron, good to see you again.
This is all the regulars, man. I love it. It's all
well, regulars, except my eyesight's starting to go since I'm 55, so I got to wear the cheaters. I'm sorry.
You've aged well, though, in the last 22 years, Lance.
Thank you. I appreciate that. How have you grown to appreciate Mike? And is it like old times, or are there, have you noticed some differences now the second time around?
I think there's a lot of differences where we're at when we first met 21 years ago compared to now. Obviously, a lot of changes in our personal life, a lot of changes in our professional life, and he's been some other places. I've been some other places too. But it's fun to meet up like this, really full circle for both of us coming back together, him coming back to Pittsburgh, his parents who are aging now, getting up there in years, are just around the corner from the south side where our facility is, which is really cool for him. His young kids are almost out of the house. That's what's so crazy. I mean, I remember him being a young dad as we were going on our runs and winning the Super Bowl. And now, the boys are out of college, and his daughter is, married and in her 30s, and his young girls are, getting up in their teenage years. So it's fun to meet, to kind of meet back up at this stage in our life. And, still very creative, very opinionated. I love our back and forth conversations. But, we've always seen the game very similarly. I obviously molded kind of a lot of my philosophies based on playing under him. And so to just have that common idea about how the offense should run and what it needs to look like has just been really, really fun. I couldn't do it with a new coach, just too much work to do that at this stage of my career. So to have him back and to have so much commonality with what we used to run is really, really special.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Aaron.
All right, we've got time for two more. Steve McGargy, Associated Press.
The fact this is the last go round for you, how much different is it in terms of, are you savoring things a little bit more, kind of thinking about the last time I do this, the last time I do that, or did you already go through that to a certain extent last year when there was some uncertainty about your future?
I feel like, Steve, I kind of went through that last year. So this year has just been a lot more normal. I don't feel like a strong nostalgic twinge with anything. And it goes by fast. I mean, it feels like we were just getting there for OTAs, and now we're, into the preseason. So this thing's going to get going. Next thing you know, you're going to turn around and it's going to be middle of the season. So this thing goes by fast. My whole career has gone by fast. Some days I wake up and I feel like I'm 25, and then start moving around. I'm sure Bobby understands this, the back gets a little tight, you go out and play golf and you're like, man, I'm a little bit more sore than I should be after this. By the way, Bobby, you should play Laurel Valley if you haven't. It's a phenomenal course out here in Detroit. But
if you invite me out, I'm in. America's guest.
Yeah, I know you are. But I'm not really, super sentimental about all this. I just feel like it's such a beautiful full circle moment for me in my career, in my life, to finish here with Mike, and I'm savoring that part for sure.
All right, and we will finish off with Dave Schroeder.
Hey, Aaron.
Hey, Dave.
I just wonder, after half your life being in the NFL, you were drafted at like 21, and now a full lifetime later, you're wrapping it up. What are you most thankful for with your career?
Definitely the people I got to do it with. That's what makes it so much fun. Even here being 42 and not having the extended time with these guys, it's just you really love those moments when you're off and when you're joking and playing cards and hanging out and just shooting the shit. That's what this game's all about. It's about the relationships, and I'm just most thankful for all the men and women who've been in my life through this game over the years. So many great people in Green Bay, in the entire organization, top to bottom, just salt of the earth type of people. And I think a lot about the kind of the unsung heroes, the unknown people, the Larry Von Holsteins of the world, who was our white cap referee for so long at practice. We went hunting, actually, pheasant hunting a couple times together, became close. he's like a fabric of the team. I think about Larry McCarron, the Rock, like just what a great dude he is, and how many hundreds of games he called to mind, and just always loved the interaction with him. The guys in the equipment room, Kevin Nelson and Tom Bakken and Red Batty and Brian Nearing and Tim Odie, and all the other understudies, and and obviously Andy, just so many great people that I got to meet over the years that never would have met without this game, and that I still consider friends. And then obviously all the teammates I've had over the years who had such a big impact on my life, and still talk to a lot of them, a lot of the quarterbacks I've been able to be around and help mentor, and who've mentored me, and I've learned stuff from them. But if you miss out on the relationships in this game, you're kind of missing the whole gist of what we're actually doing. Obviously, we're judged on our wins and losses and paid based off our production, but the thing that actually lasts the longest is those people that impact your life. And there's been a lot of, especially in Green Bay, that had a huge impact on my life. So think about those people a lot.
So that's 16 minutes from Aaron Rodgers. I love Jordan Love. It's way more interesting. And this is a little bit of a one-off. You know what I mean? It's a preseason game, and it's Green Bay people, so he's reflecting and reminiscing. There's a couple things I wrote down that I'd love to circle back and just pick out a little bit. We don't need to dedicate a full hour to all the things that Aaron Rodgers said. We've done that enough over the years. But a couple things I want to follow up on, but we got to take one more break in this hour, and then we'll come back and probably begin the third hour of the show at noon, with just a couple of the things that I found interesting, whether it tells us a little something about Rodgers and McCarthy, the way that Rodgers views his time in Green Bay, Rodgers overall as a player, maybe compared to some of his peers. I always am just looking for similarities and differences between him and Tom Brady, who is probably the peer that I consider, his closest, but Breeze and Manning and Russell Wilson and some of the other quarterbacks of the last decade, Mahomes at the end. So we'll do all of that. Jesse Temple will be here at 12:30 to talk Badgers. A lot more of the Bill Michaels Show coming up. Don't go anywhere.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels rolls in 30 seconds.
All right, we got only about a minute here. Sorry, we went a little long with Rogers, went a little long in our first couple segments. I'm really bad at that. So we're going to have to take a pretty quick break here. Our sports director, Zach Heilprin, here at the top of the hour will get you updated with the headlines, everything going on in Wisconsin sports. I know he's covering Badger practice. I think Kate is down there with him today as well. So if you want to follow those two on Twitter, you absolutely should. They're giving you updates, what's going on live today and in the moment. And you can listen to Zach's podcast, The Camp, as well, which features the voice that you're going to hear next hour. In about 40 minutes, Jesse Temple will be here, Badger Connect. I had him on my show last night. So it'll be a replay. It won't be live, but you'll hear we did about 14, 15 minutes yesterday, what he's seeing at practice and some feelings about different players, specifically Eugene Hilton Jr., who really seems like he's coming on strong to begin fall camp as their number one wide receiver. So we'll get to that. But right when we come back on the other side in a few minutes, I want to circle back and pick at a couple things Rodgers said. Because I don't know. I love Aaron Rodgers. He always gives you something good in a press conference. A little bit more entertaining than Jordan Love, which I appreciate as a talk show host. We'll do that 2 minutes right after Zach's update. We'll be right back.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, it's game day for the Packers. They're going to open up the preseason tonight against the Steelers out in Pittsburgh. Still up in the air as to how much Green Bay starters will play, though Coach Matt LaFleur has said that he finds a lot of value in at least some playing time for starters at this point. As for the Steelers, former Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers did not play in the preseason a year ago under Mike Tomlin, said he doesn't really care if he plays or not this year under Mike McCarthy. However, Rodgers was a little sad that the game wouldn't be in Green Bay.
It would have been strange being in that locker room and stuff, but I would have found my way over, like many former players have over the years, find my way over in the police office and hang out back there and see some of the guys and see some of the trainers and the equipment staff and all the people that I really care about that still work there. So, yeah, I was definitely bummed out that we weren't in Lambeau for this one.
Going to be the Packers and Steelers tonight in the preseason. Kick is slated for 6. Turn to the Badgers. They continue to go through fall camp in Madison. There's a battle of backup quarterback behind starter Colton Joseph. It's between transfer Deuce Adams and true freshman Ryan Hopkins. Both have had their moments, and QB coach Kenny Gunn hopeful a decision is going to be made here in the next couple of weeks.
Whether you're new to the trucking industry or looking for a change from your current driving job, Schneider has an opportunity for you. Need a CDL? Take advantage of our company-paid training and tuition reimbursement programs. Ready to advance your driving career? Check out Schneider's wide variety of driving job options that fit both your current needs and your goals for the future. Start or grow your trucking career at Schneider. See what we have to offer at SchneiderJobs.com. That's SchneiderJobs.com.
Well, the Brewers are in Los Angeles. It's where they're going to open up a series against the Dodgers tonight. Milwaukee got swept in San Diego, dropping the lead in the NL Central to just 3 games over the Cubs. First pitch tonight is at 9:10. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heilprin.
Thank you, Zach, our sports director, getting you updated, the latest in Wisconsin sports. Welcome back. It's the Bill Michaels Show, hour number 3. As Bill would say, boom, 2 hours down, just like that. The show's flying by. And the fourth and final hour is going to cook because Mike Clemens will join us for a couple of segments. He'll give us a recap of the week, everything that he's seen and heard up in Green Bay, and get us ready and preview that Pittsburgh game tonight. I was like leaning on beat reporters or people who are very insulated with the Packers on preseason games because I'm very curious. You know, I don't mean to downplay the importance of a preseason game, especially as a talk show host, because I want more stuff to talk about. I want everything to matter. I want everything to be important. But I feel like if you didn't watch any preseason games and you showed up for week 1, I don't know that you'd be missing much. But there are little nuggets. There's little things in these games. It's just sometimes hard for me to parse from 10,000 feet. I'm not around the team. I'm not at camp. I'm reading the reports. We're listening to the interviews. But when you can ask someone like Mike, who's covered this team for a long time, been through the cycle, the offseason, the preseason, the regular season, the draft, he's done this a bunch. I think those people have a little bit of a better mind for what actually matters in these preseason games, what coaches are looking for, what players are actually trying to accomplish, and what they need to prove. So it'll be really good to lean on Mike a little bit in the final hour, just to kind of set the table and to get our minds focused on, what we need to watch for tonight in an exhibition game. That's what it is, in an exhibition game. I want to circle back here to begin the hour before we get to Jesse Temple. We'll talk some Badgers at 12:30. But a couple of things from this Aaron Rodgers presser with the Packers beat yesterday that I thought were interesting. So we'll start with maybe the biggest picture idea, or the biggest thing that interests me with Aaron Rodgers right now. And it's come up a couple of times on my show. Not sure if Bill and I have discussed it or not. I think there is a perception that some Packers fans have that things between the Packers and Aaron Rodgers and Packers fans ended ugly. It was a divorce. It was messy. And Rodgers was a whiny, crabby, angry guy on the way out. And the Packers did him dirty. And, this is how a lot of Packers people remember it. Now, not everybody. I'm not saying you're listening. You're like, I don't feel that way at all. I'm yelling at you. I'm just saying in general. The reason I think this, or the reason that I perceive this, is because when we talked about Giannis and his departure from the Bucks a couple of months ago, especially towards the end of the year and leading into his eventual trade to Miami before the draft, it was pretty impossible for Wisconsin sports fans to not compare Giannis and his exit from Milwaukee to Rodgers and Favre and their respective exits from Green Bay. And I would notice from a lot of Packers fans, Bucks fans, Wisconsin sports fans, just these little comments in passing, well, at least it's not like Rodgers and the Packers. At least Giannis didn't do, like, there was some villainizing, or, a lot of veiled shots over how it ended with the Packers and Rodgers. There were certainly lots of headlines with Rodgers the last couple of years in Green Bay. I think he spoke much more freely and openly about a lot of things, much more openly and freely than most quarterbacks would. Rodgers at the podium is an open book. He's interesting. He gives you something. And while I appreciate that on sports talk radio, and I think fans appreciate it too, because it's entertaining, I don't know that it's always the most productive thing for a football team. Brady did interviews on WEEI weekly for how long? And I think in Boston, sure, there would be little headlines or little quotes, but it was never anything, earth-shattering. It was never anything that was going to blow up big time and become a big time talking point on ESPN or in a market or in a scale that much larger than Boston, New England, the East Coast. Patrick Mahomes does a radio interview in Kansas City every week. You never hear about it because he never says anything. And just think, Jordan Love could do an interview with Bill every week. Jordan Love could come on Bill's show every Tuesday and do 10 minutes with Bill. Do you think he'd ever make a headline? You think he'd ever really say anything that would get aggregated by the New York Post? Do you think he'd ever say anything that would end up on SportsCenter? Probably not, because he's pretty boring. Mahomes is pretty boring. Brady at press conferences is pretty boring. I think a lot of these big-time winning quarterbacks, pretty boring. Rodgers is an outlier in that way. And I don't think it prevented them from winning, but I think it created headlines and created noise in a way that the Packers probably didn't love. Matt LaFleur and Mark Murphy and Brian Gutekunst probably didn't love, but I don't really know that it ever affected the football too much. Most people are going to point to the pandemic in 2020 and, the immunized situation. And I just don't really hold anything from that year against anyone, because we were all going a little stir crazy. It was a pandemic. No one really knew the best way. I mean, everyone looks back now. Well, we were wrong to do this. We were wrong to do that. We were wrong. I don't know, man. It was a global pandemic. Like, no one really knew what was going on. We were taking our best guesses and we we're all a little nuts. So looking back, like, I don't really hold anything that happened in the pandemic or anything that anybody said against anybody. It's not to say that, certain health officials, it's not like we shouldn't go back and examine and try to learn from it. I'm not saying that, but like Aaron Rodgers felt one way, a lot of people felt the other. We squabbled about it in 2020. And come on, if we're being adults, can't we look back and think, yeah, we're all going a little stir crazy. We were probably bent out of shape about it in our own little ways. Probably just, probably don't need to pay that much credence to a year where we're all a little crazy. Now, I was crazy. We were all crazy. I was crazy. We didn't know what to do. We were cooped up in our house. It's freaky. I don't know. Nobody knew it was going to happen. So setting the pandemic stuff aside, when it came time for Rodgers to actually leave the Packers, here's the way I remember it, okay? And if I'm wrong, you go ahead and call me on it. We can talk about it. I'd love to spend some time talking about it if you feel differently. But the way I remember it is the Packers drafted Jordan Love, and Aaron Rodgers did not expect it. And I think that was a little bit of a shock for Rodgers. He's talked about this. I'm not really going out on a limb here because Rodgers thought he would finish his career in Green Bay. And when they drafted Jordan Love, it became to Rodgers, oh, okay, so that's not going to happen. Well, that's a little frustrating, or that's a little bit of a bucket of cold water. And I think in the very, very short term, meaning the spring of 2021 to week 1 of 2021, I think, or I guess this would have been 2020, kind of the year that followed Jordan Love being drafted. I think that reality had to set in for everybody. And Aaron Rodgers very famously gave that press conference when he returned to camp after a trade request, even though I think Rodgers came out after and said, I don't know where Schefter got that. I never requested a trade. I don't remember. This was a while ago. But I think after that, once that next season started, the way I remember it is Rodgers played a lot of really good football and was very aware that Jordan Love was eventually going to take over and never did anything to prohibit that other than play really good football. Was never a stick in the wheel. He just played out the string until it became clear. It's like, okay, my time here is probably done. Jordan Love's time has probably arrived. They missed the playoffs. Now is probably the time. And the Jets are probably the team. And then it happened. And I don't really remember Rodgers being a turd about it. He had that press conference being training camp in 2021, but I honestly respect that a little bit. He came out and said everything he needed to say, put it all out on the record for all of us, and then he went on and played really good football, and that was kind of it. So looking back at the split between Rodgers and the Packers, I don't really feel like it was that nasty, and I don't really feel like either side did anything that was uncouth or that bad. Anytime you have two parties that are going to split up, there's going to be some awkwardness. There's going to be a little, but I think that split went about as well as a split like that could go. Now, why do I say all that? Well, I say that to set up a couple comments that Rodgers made here, including a follow-up to Jason Wilde's question. This was right off the jump from the presser. I just want to play this little exchange at the beginning.
Have you ever thought about how much easier you made it for Jordan to take over for you than what you dealt with that summer? Tausch was saying today that he thinks you gave Jordan the best transition any quarterback in the NFL has ever had. How do you view that?
Because it was a little contentious on the way out. Is that?
I would say more than a little, probably for you on when Brett was on his way out, and you made it way easier for him.
So Rodgers asks a follow-up here and says, why? Because it was so contentious on the way out. And I'm not 100% sure if he's referring to Favre, which is where Wilde takes it. But part of me thinks Rodgers asking that is why, because, when I left, it was such a mess. And I don't remember it that way. I don't view it that way. There's also another exchange here later on. It was about the 5-minute mark. So I'm scrolling and finding it here in real time, where Rodgers is asked about his return one day, his Hall of Fame ceremony. What are your thoughts about that? What do you think about that? Here's the question. And again, I just want to play the first thing out of Rodgers' mouth.
Bill?
Yeah, how's it going? There I am. I'm in Door County, so you know how that is. There may or may not be internet ever. So I'll cut to the chase. It's to Matt's question. Have you thought about what it's going to be like to come back in 5 years when you're in the Hall of Fame and you come back for the number ceremony and all that?
Well, the first has to be an invite back, so we'll
I assume you'll get one.
We'll see about that. Yeah, I mean, I'm always gonna.
So he says, well, first I got to get an invite back. I don't know if that's Rodgers saying, oh, shucks. Because he's still playing. Like, I could understand if I was still playing and playing for another team. I don't want to go on for minutes and minutes about, well, it's going to be great to be recognized in the fans and all that. So I get, your little aw shucks. Although I've never known Rodgers to really be the aw shucks guy. I wonder if Rodgers remembers that split a little bit differently, because I don't think many Packers fans who remember correctly, and I think some Packers fans misremember a little bit, as I just discussed for a couple of minutes. I don't think most Packers fans believe that the split was that ugly. I don't think most Packers fans believe that there's a lot of bad blood. And just in a little comment here and there in this availability, I wonder if Rodgers feels a little bit differently. And maybe the relationship between him and Gutekunst is not good, or, I think part of it for Rodgers too is very, very few people are still in Green Bay that were a part of his draft, part of his development, part of his crowning achievements, especially early in the 20-teens. So he looks back and, a lot of the faces and the names are different. So maybe he feels as though, well, that's a different organization. It's a lot of different people now. So, it's not quite the same. And I'll have to make a connection and talk with those people. I don't know. I don't remember Rodgers' exit from Green Bay as contentious and as messy. There were some messy moments, maybe 2 or 3 years before that, but I don't remember the exit and the departure itself to be that way. And just listening to Rodgers a little bit, maybe he does. Maybe he feels a little bit differently. He also said something later, and it might have been in response to Steve McGargy's question about playing for McCarthy again. Let me jump forward to that.
You've aged well, though, in the last 22 years.
Oh, no, it was Lance Allen. Shout out to Lance Allen. Rice Lake product. Very good question.
Thank you. I appreciate that. How have you grown to appreciate Mike? And is it like old times, or are there, have you noticed some differences now the second time around?
I think there's a lot of differences where we're at when we first met 21 years ago compared to now. Obviously, a lot of changes in our personal life, a lot of changes in our professional life, and he's been some other places. I've been some other places too. But it's fun to meet up like this, really full circle for both of us coming back together, him coming back to Pittsburgh, his parents who are aging now, getting up there in years, are just around the corner from the south side where our facility is, which is really cool for him. His young kids are almost out of the house. That's what's so crazy. I mean, I remember him being a young dad as we were going on our runs and winning the Super Bowl. And now, the boys are out of college, and his daughter is, married and in her 30s, and his young girls are, getting up in their teenage years. So it's fun to kind of meet back up at this stage in our life. And, still very creative, very opinionated. I love our back and forth conversations. But, we've always seen the game very similarly. I obviously molded kind of a lot of my philosophies based on playing under him. And so to just have that common idea about how the offense should run. And
so this next part is the part that I marked down is very interesting, the tag end of this answer.
And what it needs to look like has just been really, really fun. I couldn't do it with a new coach, just too much work to do that at this stage of my career. So to have him back and to have so much commonality with what we used to run is really, really special.
For him to say, I couldn't do it with a new coach, it'd be too much work. I'm like, oh, okay. I guess not shocking. But I think a lot of folks, and again, not to take a victory lap here, but I remember being at the Combine in April with Bill. And, after doing our shows, and, Bill would be on 10 to 2 in Indianapolis, it'd be 11 to 3. And then I'd do my show from 4 to 6 Central, 5 to 7, Eastern over in Indy. And then we're going out, kicking around the bars, see what kind of trouble we can get into, see who we can see. And I remember talking to some Packer people who were there and some NFL people who've been guests on the shows, just friends of friends in the media space. And at this point in time in April, Rodgers had not made a decision. We didn't know if he would be returning to Pittsburgh, but we knew Mike McCarthy would be the coach. And we knew at the time that Mike McCarthy was going to get a lot of his old band back together. James Campen, I think has Joe Phil been there? I can't remember, but there are a couple people there. And it was my take, uneducated and from 10,000 feet, because I don't work on a beat. I'm not around the Packers, but my take from 10,000 feet is Rodgers is a romantic. He's a reminiscer. He's a BSer. I mean, listen to him. At one point in this press conference, he goes, look, I'm not sentimental, but it's special to be with Mike. Like he declares, I'm not a sentimental guy. And then he proceeds to get sentimental for 60 seconds. It's not a bad thing to be sentimental. Rodgers totally is. He's a romantic, and he loves, thinking back about, different eras with different players and when the league was different. And it was my take from the beginning, and it was my thought from the beginning. I don't think Rodgers is going to pass up a chance to be in the same meeting room and to reconnect with some of these guys who were in Green Bay at the beginning. It would be like moving in with your college roommates again, and if you're sentimental, like what a cool thing to be able to do. Rodgers is going to be able to tell stories with these guys about, being in the dorms at St. Norbert's or pranking, Tim Mastay or whoever. Like Rodgers is going to be he's going to love that. And everybody I talk to who is familiar with McCarthy, familiar with Rodgers, like, no chance, dude. No way. Blood and water. No, not even a prayer that this is going to happen. I'm like, okay, all right. I guess I must not know. I didn't know the extent of the split between Rodgers and McCarthy. And at one point in this presser, Rodgers did say, well, you have to have a good push-pull, and that's why me and McCarthy were, so successful together for so long, as we had such a good push-pull. And I heard that. I'm like, I wonder if McCarthy views, some of those years at the end as more a natural push-pull, or just maybe more of a blatant disregard between two parties to kind of work together at times. I kind of always thought he's going back to Pittsburgh because he's sentimental. He's romantic. He loves the connections. He loves the people. And one final year in Pittsburgh with this coaching staff is going to give him an opportunity to fully tap into that. People are like, oh, no chance. Not a chance. I don't know. Not to say that I was right, but I wasn't as wrong as everyone said. So I find this season to be very interesting with Rodgers coming up. We'll take a break. Jesse Temple, bottom of this hour. Don't go anywhere.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
get a good feeling. Yeah.
How we look in the Bill Michaels Show. Welcome back. Just picking at Aaron Rodgers in the Green Bay media on a Zoom call yesterday. Mike Clemens, by the way, in a collared shirt, a true professional. You can say for some of the members of the beat, just joining from golf carts and cars. Now, Zach Heilprin, our sports director, is here. He's popped in. Good afternoon, Zach.
Good afternoon.
You were not on that Zoom, but we both were. We're kind of watching and picking at it a little bit. I would just like to say, when I was at the Combine, okay, I was kicking around, the nightlife,
sure,
running into people. And this was in April, and at the time, we didn't know if Rodgers would be coming back to Pittsburgh. But we knew that McCarthy would be there and a lot of his staff. And it was my take. I thought it was a good one, That was a good take.
Do you have bad ones?
Yeah, plenty.
Do you go out and later talk about how bad they were?
Sure. Why would I? My take at the time is, hey, Rodgers is a romantic. He loves to reminisce. He's not going to miss an opportunity to be able to do that. He can talk about the St. Norbert dorms with some of these guys and James Campen and I remember Tim Mastay and Brady Papinga. And I think there's a good chance he might come back just for that. And people shut me down so hard. People who've covered the Packers or, still cover them, used to cover them. Oh, blood and water. They hate each other like poison. And today we're listening to the Zoom and Rodgers says, I couldn't do this with the new coach. The only way I was going to do this, I couldn't do it at this age without someone like Mike McCarthy. I don't know. Score one for Grant. Do you have a reaction to that? Is all.
You led into this when we were coming back. I've got something. I thought it was going to be back and forth. Like you're going to take some kind of a shot at me and then I was going to come back to you because that's usually what you do.
No.
The idea that I think Rodgers figured out that it wasn't so bad under Mike McCarthy.
Oh,
I think he figured that out. I think they figured that out both with Matt LaFleur and then going and being with the disaster that was the Jets. And then going to that organization. And Pittsburgh's a little bit closer to Green Bay for sure. I think he realized maybe under McCarthy it wasn't nearly as bad as it got there at the end. Because it was bad at the end. I don't think there's any you can't say otherwise. It was bad at the end. They needed to go their separate ways. But I think Rodgers probably gained some very opened his eyes. I'll say that to being with some other people and being with some other organizations and maybe really valuing his time in Green Bay with Mike McCarthy a lot more. And so, I don't think there's anything wrong with him saying, if Mike McCarthy's not there, say it was some random coach that he'd never been around before, like he would have stayed if it was Mike Tomlin again. But if it was some random coach he had no connection with, I don't think he would have come back.
Yeah. I hadn't considered.
At least there. Maybe
Yeah.
he goes somewhere else, but I don't think he comes back to Pittsburgh.
I hadn't considered the fact that, going to the Jets for a couple of years can really
can make you. But Rodgers talked about that, right? Like he's talked about how, gosh, you don't realize how good you had it until you don't have it anymore.
And that's not to say that it was perfect in Green Bay at the end, that everything was absolutely perfect and great. Like I'm sure there were issues and there was a reason that GM, head coach were replaced and the front office structure was kind of like, sure, it wasn't perfect, but it can get a whole lot worse in other places around the NFL.
And honestly, he went from one of the, I don't want to say preeminent franchises, but like one of the core franchises in the NFL to a franchise that is a laughingstock and has been pretty much every single year since 1975.
Well, and
right?
I think he's the type, I don't mean this negatively, he's the type who would care about something like that. Like I think Brady at the end, he went to Tampa and won a chair. I think Brady was, I need to win. I want to win. Where's my best chance? I think Rodgers is a little different in that, I think history and brand, and he cares about that a little bit more, which I think is cool. You know what I mean? I don't think, had they been winning with the Jets, wouldn't have been a problem. But I think if I'm going to not play so great or be hurt and lose, I don't want to do it for some stupid team when people are going to look at my Football Reference and be like, yeah.
I think the Jets could have been good if he hadn't got hurt. Like, I mean, they weren't horrible. I mean, he would have lifted them up a little bit, but instead he gets hurt. What? 4 or 5 plays into the season.
I would have liked to see
matter.
I would have liked to see
that
it.
First year. The second year,
But also, to be fair to him,
that defense wasn't what it was supposed to be. The defense was supposed to be amazing, and
it wasn't. And
under Saleh,
he's got to have more than a couple of games to return from a blown Achilles. Like that takes time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's like, all right, you're back from the Achilles. Oh, and it's not amazing right away. We're going to fire the head coach. Why isn't it amazing right away? It's
right.
Like, well, that recovery normally takes a little bit of time.
And let's also be fair. He wasn't good in 22. Right? Like he wasn't any good.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say he wasn't any good. He wasn't very good.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't anywhere close to what he was in in 20 and 21.
Yes.
So he was clearly falling off.
Zach Heilprin is here, our sports director, WOZN, and on the camp as well. We're going to have your camp mate, Jesse Temple, on here in just a little bit. Eugene Hilton Jr. First of all, stupid question. Is his dad's name Eugene and his nickname is Ty? I didn't think about this.
I believe so.
Okay.
I mean, he's a junior, so it has to be,
that's
right?
what I was saying. I was writing it out yesterday. I'm like, wait, not important. Is he a wide receiver one, the likes of which maybe they haven't had recently?
He certainly looked like it yesterday. I mean, yesterday, and I know that's when you talked to Jesse, like it felt like everything that got anywhere close to him was gobbled up, and almost all of them were touchdowns. And it wasn't just one-on-ones. It wasn't just Skelly. It was also team, right? Skelly's like 7-on-7, right? It's not real football. You don't have offensive linemen. Guys aren't coming at the quarterback and all that stuff. But it wasn't just that. It was one-on-ones. It was Skelly. It was team. They got after it, and every ball that seemingly got close to him, he gobbled up for a touchdown. So he is not. I don't think he's not a burner, but he has certainly improved as a pass rusher or as a pass, with his route running as a receiver.
His polish.
Yeah, he's better there. He's also he's just very smooth, and he catches it as easy as any of these guys. I think that is where what makes him different. And when you look at who he got to grow up against, it makes sense. But his dad was like speed, right? Ty could get down. He was a deep threat. I don't know that it's going to be Eugene. I don't know if it's going to be him, but gosh, he certainly looked good, and everything that got close to him was gobbled up.
And they're going to use those guys a little bit in the running game too. Jesse told me a little bit about that last night.
A little bit.
Nothing crazy, but just a little sprinkling.
I mean, we've seen it. They've had it in years past too. I don't think it'd be a huge departure, but I'd want to get the ball to Abu Sama and Darren Dupree and Brian Jackson and Nate Palmer. I'd rather have those guys with the hands on the ball. But yeah, no, he did have another what would have been a touchdown yesterday. Eugene Hilton did. Is
Mason Posa an S talker on a level that we very infrequently see? It just sounds like he is.
I heard so I listened to your interview with Jesse.
Yeah. How was it, by the way?
There was not enough of me in it, but otherwise, I mean, no, I'm kidding. There were some shots. I mean, there were some. It's irrelevant.
Sound irrelevant.
Well, you asked him about the fighting. He thought it was like this too big of a deal people were making about and that was directly from the camp where I brought it up, and he was like very lukewarm to it. So like when he rolled his eyes, I was like, all right, well that's not a roll at me. And we've just been doing the camp every single day.
Yeah.
And so that's the most we've been on a camera or face to face or by each other in a very long time. We used to do the camp in here. Mm-hmm. Before COVID, he would come in and we would do it, but it would be like once a week. But yeah, we've spent a lot of FaceTime with each other, and I can be a little tiresome, and so can he.
When do we get to have Jesse upplay something? I feel like he just
downplay.
Downplay.
Yeah, it's kind of his personality, and I also think it is all. I mean, we both have that kind of personality, but I would say these last few years of Wisconsin football have taught you.
Yeah,
not to play things up because it blows up in your face. So like I know there's been some pushback on some of the stuff we've talked about with you're giving all Ryan Hopkins all this love and it's some kind of like a quarterback controversy, and no, he's had his moments, and then these last couple of days he hasn't had his moments. He's throwing interceptions. It's not been perfect.
He's looked like a true freshman.
Okay. And then Colton Joseph had a good day yesterday. UW puts out the clips of all those touchdowns to Eugene Hilton, and then I'm just looking at him like he got sacked. He was wide open. Not a great throw, very good catch. Like when I look back at that stuff, it's like, oh, QB1 had an amazing day. Did he? Did he though? So that's kind of where the personality is, and I think me and Jesse are probably in that same vein. But when you go back to what you were talking about and asking about, Mason Posa as a trash talker. The story that he told was, yes, it was. So we got to go inside the facility, and it's amazing. Like the facility, the new practice facility. We got to go inside, and they put us like second level, but it's like right on the field, and so you can hear everything. And the offensive line is like right below us, and Eric Mateos was just giving it to his guys. And Mason Posa was, I don't know, he was walking back, and he heard some of this stuff, and he's like, yeah, we're absolutely owning you guys. And there was and the offensive line got up and we're like yelling back at him. Yes, he is a trash talker, but he's far from the only one. But it's been back and forth. Like him and Cooper Catalano have different personalities, But even Cooper Catalano got into it today with the offensive line. Like him and PJ Wilkins like almost came to blows. Like it's been a very highly emotional first 7 practices.
More so than usual.
It feels that way. Again, I'm not going to play it up, but I would say it feels like there's been something every other day.
Well, fights on day 1 with no pads isn't that normal. I know it's football and guys are, but day 1 with no pads, like you haven't got a chance to get sick of each other. You're not even hitting each other yet.
See, but they had OTAs like leading into what? They had OTAs leading into this. They've been working out all summer long, having to see each other, offense, defense, competing, like that type of stuff. But yeah, PJ Wilkins is he's a nasty type of guy. Like he's got that kind of attitude. And yeah, he was involved in the one you're talking about on day 1 where him and Tyrus Freebury got after it. And then he was involved today with Cooper Catalano. And yeah, I mean, I don't mind that. They have been so soft at times these last couple of years when things have not gone well. They get punched in the mouth and they stay down. I'm not saying it's not going to happen this year, but I certainly like to fight more than I have the last couple of years at this point.
2 minutes to conclude. Top's running out of time, but out of 10, your level of confidence as it stands right now in the O-line?
As it stands right now?
Yes.
5. They were good today. They actually had some moments today, but they're without 2 starters. They have not had Kevin Haywood, the right tackle. He got hurt early in camp. They have not had starting right guard Emerson Mandel. He had offseason surgery, has not practiced yet. So there are absolutely concerns there. And the depth-wise at tackle is almost non-existent. So, yeah, I don't have a huge amount of confidence just because you need to see it in a game, first of all. And 2, the injuries are a major concern. They lost a backup yesterday in Michael Reske, who was taken to the hospital and he was released. But like it was like the offensive line, every offensive line coach in the country is looking for depth, trying to build depth. Very few have it. Mm-hmm. Wisconsin has a lot of talented depth because they've recruited so well. It just hasn't played. You need it on the field to be able to see it. And I just don't know that I have a ton of confidence in the backups right now.
All right.
So we'll see.
We will monitor the situation. We'll listen to you out of the camp. By the way, I'm going on vacation next week. Going to stay with a friend. I should stop at Brennan's and get some beer.
You absolutely should.
It's right down the hill here on the west side. It's a great store.
Yeah, right.
And I love an excuse. I don't do a lot of entertaining, as you maybe could guess. So I don't have a lot of reasons to go to you can go to Brennan's for whatever, but when I go there, I'm going to a party, I'm hosting something. I need some cheeses, some meats, some wine. Yeah. Not that I know anything about
some
wine.
Kebabs.
Kebabs, something to throw on the grill.
They got actually amazing potato salad.
Yep. So something like that. I think I'm going to stop on my way out of town tomorrow. And maybe on my drive, I will listen to the latest episode of The Camp. Thank you for this is a perfect lead-in for Jesse coming up next. Thank you, Zach.
Appreciate you.
All right, we'll be back. More of the Bill Michaels Show. Jesse Temple joins us on the other side.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Hey, Chuck, what type of loans do you offer at Dollar Loan Center in Madison?
We offer no collateral, signature loans up to $5,000, and the process normally takes less than an hour. We do this at all our locations, or our customers can complete the entire loan process at don'tbebroke.com to save even more time. And when their loan is approved, we do instant funding to the account of their choice or give them cash.
Up to $5,000 cash in minutes? I'm in.
It's free to apply, and new customers get the first week's interest on us. And we charge by the day so they can pay off quickly to save a lot of money or keep the money for up to a year.
Dollar Loan Center loves Madison and lends up to $5,000 in minutes. Stop by in Janesville, Beloit, and Beaver Dam to meet our real friendly staff. You can also apply over the phone or online at don'tbebroke.com.
Licensed and regulated by the Wisconsin Department of Financial Institutions. Subject to approval, limitations may apply. See website for details.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Jesse. Hey, Jesse. 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 Jesse.
Jesse Temple is here. Badger Connect, subscribe to his work. The written work is outstanding. The podcast is good. And the video content, the Badger Bites, top notch. It's the only content of its kind. That's where you can find it. And of course, he's on the camp with Zach. They're cranking out episodes at breakneck pace. It's funny, Jesse, the thing that was on the top of my list to ask you about is something that you tweeted about within the last 10 minutes. Eugene Hilton Jr., rave reviews. So I will ask you, is he the type of player, do you see in him the type of player who can be a number one wide receiver in a good competitive Big Ten offense this year? Is he that good, or is it just he's showing promise and stacking some nice practices?
Well, it's still early and he's in his second year as a college player, but my response would be, heck yes, I do.
Nice.
He's the most talented wide receiver in the room. And Zach and I have been talking about this since last spring when he came in, 2 springs ago. He came in as a freshman early enrollee and was making plays. And granted, those plays were with the third stringers often. You throw the ball in his general direction, his catch radius is outstanding. If you're a quarterback, you have to feel good about your chances. And he's been the most consistent wide receiver this fall. I wrote about some takeaways through the first 4 preseason practices for a story that published on Badger Connect Monday. And I said that he had stood out most to me, him and Tyrell Henry, but he's just made really big leaps. And today he was outstanding. He might have had a 6 touchdowns. And I know some of them are in the red zone and all those types of things, but he got behind the defense and Colton Joseph just threw a beautiful ball off play action for a 40-yard touchdown. He had a catch in the end zone against Javon Robinson that was contested, and Robinson is undeniably the starting corner, one of them on the outside. They got the ball to him in some different ways so he could run it and he was able to score. They did some one-on-one drills, so it was just you're in the red zone, quarterback's throwing the ball, you're matched up against a DB, go make a play. And while the offense should have the advantage, they didn't always win, but he won. And so there's just so much to like about his game, his savviness, his route running. Obviously, his dad, T.Y., was a great NFL player, and he learned from him. And so when I saw that he came back from being in the transfer portal last offseason, it felt like one of the biggest wins Wisconsin could have from the transfer portal or otherwise at that stage.
You mentioned Tyrell Henry, Jalen Domingo from Southern Louisiana, another player. Hilton, do you notice throughout fall camp so far, and I know we've only been at it for, a week, maybe a little bit less, do you see some chemistry and some things between them and their quarterback? Do you see that kind of developing? Because that's got to happen really fast now in college football with guys changing teams all the time.
Yeah, I think so. Look, I never was a quarterback or a wide receiver, so I can't speak to what the chemistry is like. But if the quarterback's going to put the ball in your area, you go catch it. And I think one thing about Hilton is he's done it with all 3 of the top quarterbacks. And so it's not just Colton Joseph. It's reps he's got with Deuce Adams and Ryan Hopkins as well. I certainly think Deuce is putting himself in position to potentially be a number 1. And it's still very early, but that was one of the discussions and talking points in the spring is doesn't really feel like Wisconsin has a true number 1 now. Jalen DiMaggio really stood out in the spring scrimmage, and it felt like he was emerging. I don't know that I've seen a ton of big plays from him or that he's been stacking days in the way that Hilton has, but he's going to be a part of the rotation on the outside. Chris Brooks Jr. as well, who's a really good blocker. And then can they have perhaps a 5th guy emerge? But certainly I think that Hilton is capable of being a number 1. And there have been some good plays, though I would also say that it's not like they're dialing up a lot of 40-yard shots in practice. I'd say the majority of passes are probably 10 yards and under as they're installing everything and working on the run game. So some encouraging signs, though, from Hilton.
It's funny because, Jeff Grimes is a more traditional kind of Wisconsin type offensive coordinator, running game to set up the pass, play action. But when you listen to Colton Joseph, and I don't remember if it was with an availability that you guys had or Big Ten Network, it all starts to run together. He was asked, to describe this offense, explosive. There's a lot of talk of some of these players, big plays, pushing the ball down the field. Is that something that you've noticed and maybe something that Jeff Grimes is trying to emphasize here in his second year? Or is that just a player, being excited about his offense? And,
So I think they're capable of it. Again, I referenced that 40-yard touchdown pass that he had. That's pretty darn explosive. But do I think that's the bulk of the offense? Absolutely not. It's a very different offense from the Phil Longo type of offense, which we know didn't work in 2 seasons at Wisconsin. I think a lot of it is going to be predicated on the run. I also think they're going to actively involve the wide receivers, getting them the ball so they can get out in open space on the run. But if you can succeed and if the O-line can establish some holes, it's going to suck the defense up so that you're baited by that play action pass. And so that's absolutely part of the offense. I don't know that I'm ready to proclaim that this is an explosive offense. And I know he said we're going to score a lot of touchdowns. That's always the hope. Hope springs eternal this time of year. But if they can establish some things up front, they'll clearly be in a much better position to succeed down the field.
Lastly, kind of on this Eugene Hilton thing, I can't remember if it was when I was talking with Zach or you. It's probably come up with both of us. I think in all of our discussions about what's been wrong with the program the last couple of years or areas in which they've come up short, you and Zach have both pointed out, like, hey, just by the way, we're talking about this, that, and the other thing. They just haven't had enough high-level dudes, explosive playmakers, guys who can kind of take over a play and make something happen by themselves. Is Eugene Hilton consistently flashing? Is he maybe one of the guys who you look at and say, yeah, they've been missing guys like that the last couple of years. Does he qualify?
Man, it's really tough to say. When they had Will Pauling, especially in his first year, he made an abundance of catches. And granted, Longo loved to utilize slot receivers in that way. He's got an extremely high ceiling. I'll say that. He's also a guy who had 9 receptions last season. And certainly a lot of that had to do with not only opportunities, but also who's trying to get you the ball. You got 4 quarterbacks and it's a turnstile. You're having a lot of problems. You can't run the ball. You're averaging 3.3 yards per carry. But I just really like what he has to offer, and felt even last year that he was one of the most talented receivers in the room. But it seems clear that he's made a very big jump. And so again, for Wisconsin to bring him back for a second year could end up paying big dividends.
Jesse Temple is here. Find his work, subscribe to Badger Connect. So you guys talked with Eric Mateos yesterday, the offensive line coach. It's the one time of the year you're going to get him. Basically, that's what Zach was describing to me. Or this is not something that you get to do a lot. This is kind of an introduction to him and what he thinks. Before we get into the specifics of what he said, I have a question or two. You've been around a lot of coaches. They talk. They're interesting characters. Sniffing through, some of the coachisms and are you buying what he's selling?
Yeah. I mean, look, he mixes humor and intensity, which is what I wrote about off that availability and just watching the O-line in general. The intensity has certainly stood out here early on in the preseason. He's having these dudes do up down, especially the last couple practices, for all kinds of mistakes. You look over and you see the O-line group, they're constantly on the ground getting back up. And it's probably one thing if you're a jacked up wide receiver, and another thing if you're a 330-pound O-lineman to have to thud on the ground and get back up. But he wants to hold them accountable. And he basically, he didn't say it's hell week, but that's what practices 5 through 8 are. It's separating the guys, the men from the boys, if you will. Like, you think it's hard now? Great. I'm not going to be out there when it's September 6th and you're playing against Notre Dame. So I want it to be so hard now that when you get to a game, you understand the expectations. But then there is the other side of him that's super humorous. Am I buying it? Look, what he said when we first talked to him after he got hired, I asked him, why is this going to work? I said, you're the third O-line coach under Luke Fickell. Luke fired the other 2. And he said, not to be full of bravado, but what he said is, I haven't failed anywhere yet. Now, he didn't last at Arkansas because there was some staff turnover, but he felt like they had a really solid offensive line. He has had rebuilding projects before. He actually compared coming to Wisconsin to what it was like at Baylor. Now, Jeff Grimes was the offensive coordinator then. They were 120-something in rushing offense before Mateos got there. And in his first year, they were 10th in rushing offense. Well, Wisconsin's rushing offense last year was like 116th. So, but he's got a lot of work to do. And I think that that's the key thing here. That's my biggest question about any position group is, will the offensive line be ready? Will there be enough top level bodies to be effective? Because that's always a concern. And we'll see whether he can get it done.
Let's reverse engineer this. Why do you think the last 2 offensive line coaches under Luke Fickell didn't work? And the results haven't been good. But to you, looking critically, was there were they not developing the talent that Luke Fickell thought they had? Was it a scheme? Was it what do you think went wrong with the last 2?
Well, at least based on talking to players, I don't think they particularly liked how Jack McNeil Jr. coached them. Now, granted, he was part of the offense under Phil Longo at North Carolina, and that was an offense that was just totally different from what the O-linemen knew and the way they were blocking and the landmarks that they were aiming for instead of just going and destroying somebody. So it was very clear that wasn't working, but ultimately the Phil Longo experiment didn't work either. The A.J. Blazek one is interesting. I think he's a good coach. I think he's very personable, and I'm not sure exactly what happened that led them to feel like they needed to do something totally different, because I felt like he recruited well. You look at some of the recruiting classes they brought in, he was responsible for them. But I'd also say that he wasn't Jeff Grimes' guy. And there's something to be said for that. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't, just like it didn't under Longo. But Grimes and Mateos have had a history of success. I mentioned Baylor before. They were at BYU together. They've been at multiple schools. And so there was an opportunity because Mateos wasn't going to stay at Arkansas. So that may have had part to do with this too. If you're the offensive coordinator, you want some people you can trust who you've worked with in the trenches before.
Fit, right? Like I could probably boil it down as a dummy who hasn't played football. There's a lot of ways that you can coach a line that probably works. It's about coaching it the right way to fit the offense and the players that's been. So hopefully Fit now aligned with OC and the offensive line coach. Intense guy, Kate was in here last night, did a little report and gave her reaction to things. I've also heard from practices so far, there's fighting is a strong word, skirmishes, chirping. Like, has this been a more aggressive, vocal, snarky fall camp so far than maybe the ones you were used to in the past? Has that stood out to you?
Honestly, I know that that's been a storyline. I don't make that big of a deal of it. I also can't remember every camp from year to year. Now, are there some dudes who are willing to talk some smack? Yeah, I like that about this group. Mason Posta is getting into it with everybody. It's funny. So there was a sequence in practice the other day, and Mateos was not thrilled with his entire offensive line group and was talking to him. And Posta came back from the sideline and was heading back toward the field and started talking some smack, and they were kind of going at it because Posta is very confident in himself and thinks that he and his defense can get the job done. And there's a lot of times where I see him and Colton Joseph kind of talking to each other. So you like that. You like that kind of alpha dog personality. And maybe some people see that and think, well, there's a different attitude. In terms of the skirmishes, look, if you're going against the same dude every day in 86-degree heat for 21 days out of 25 or whatever, you're probably going to want to hit somebody after the whistle. And we see that every year, I feel like. So I'm not going to make too much of that. But I guess if you're looking for a silver lining, maybe there is a shift in attitude or a feeling like we have the ability to dominate. But we'll see whether it translates on game days.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket, this is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Wrapping up hour number 3, the Bill Michaels Show. Appreciate both Zach and Jesse this hour. How lucky are we to get them both back to back? Little Badgers talk, servicing you Badgers fans, college football fans on the show. Mike Clemens going to join us for a couple of segments in the 4th and final hour. So we'll reset maybe with some Brewers thoughts and some additional Packers thoughts in the segment while we wait for Mike here for about 10 or 15 minutes. Get a good preview of, well, what's to come. Pittsburgh, Green Bay, preseason game. What does any of it matter? Does a preseason game matter at all? I'll share Andy Herman's take on that from hour number 1 if you missed his comment. Just a nice framing of, what a preseason game even means. So we'll get to that coming up. Mike Clemens in just a little bit. But first 2 minutes, just the headlines, just an update. No commercial break or anything like that from our sports director, Zach Heilprin. We'll be right back to begin hour number 4.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, it's game day for the Packers. They're going to open up the preseason tonight against the Steelers out in Pittsburgh. Still up in the air as to how much Green Bay starters will play, though Coach Matt LaFleur has said that he finds a lot of value in at least some playing time for starters at this point. As for the Steelers, former Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers did not play in the preseason a year ago under Mike Tomlin, said he doesn't really care if he plays or not this year under Mike McCarthy. However, Rodgers was a little sad that the game wouldn't be in Green Bay.
It would have been strange being in the locker room and stuff, but I would have found my way over, like many former players have over the years, find my way over in the police office and hang out back there and see some of the guys and see some of the trainers and the equipment staff and all the people that I really care about that still work there. So, yeah, I was definitely bummed out that we weren't in Lambeau for this one.
Again, it'll be the Packers and Steelers tonight in the preseason. Kick is slated for 6. Turning to the Badgers, they continue to go through fall camp in Madison. There's a battle at backup quarterback behind starter Colton Joseph. It's between transfer Deuce Adams and true freshman Ryan Hopkins. Both have had their moments, and QB coach Kenny Guyton hopeful a decision is going to be made here in the next couple of weeks.
It's a summer of big wins with WinFest at Potawatomi Casino Hotel, Milwaukee. Just play with your Potawatomi Rewards card for entries and your chance to win cash and reward play all summer long. Then keep the excitement going because all your monthly drawing entries roll over into the WinFest final drawings on September 25th, where you could win cars, dream vacations, free play, and cash. Don't miss out on WinFest, only at Potawatomi. More info online. Must be 21 and a rewards member to play.
Well, the Brewers are in Los Angeles. It's where they're going to open up a series against the Dodgers tonight. Milwaukee just got swept in San Diego, dropping their lead in the NL Central to just 3 games over the Cubs. First pitch tonight is at 9:10. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heilprin.
Hour number 4 of the Bill Michaels Show. Mike Clemens will be here in about 20 minutes. We'll get a recap of the week up in Green Bay and a little bit of a preview of Packers-Steelers tonight from Mike Clemens. I hope you've been enjoying the show so far. My name is Grant Bills. I'll be in tomorrow as well, and then Bill will be back on Monday, and I'll be gone all of next week. I'm going on vacation, and then we'll be locked in for football for the next couple of months. So Bill will be back on Monday. I miss Bill as well. So it's not just you. Doing my best here to keep the show flowing as normal as possible. Mike Clemens certainly helps that. I'm a little curious or a little confused or a little unsure as to what to do with a preseason game. Now, as host of a sports talk show responsible for filling a couple hours of content every day, it would be irresponsible for me to look at a preseason game and say, it doesn't really matter. Well, if a preseason game doesn't matter on sports talk radio this week, then I'm not sure what does, right? Like, of course, we got to find something in there. What position battles, what positions have spots up for grabs? What can we learn about the approach or the ethos maybe of this team in 2026, 2027? There's got to be something to come out of this game, right? So I want to replay for you just this one answer from Andy Herman in hour number 1 when I asked him, all right, like, what matters in a preseason game and what specifically matters in this preseason game tonight. Because if anyone's going to sift through that, it's Andy, who does Pack-A-Day. He does a podcast about the Packers every day.
It matters in certain aspects. It matters for guys like Nasir Stackhouse. It matters for guys like Jonathan Ford. It matters for, the cornerback battle, some of the offensive line battles, especially the depth along the O-line. Those things legitimately matter. I mean, that's what preseason for, is to get a better gauge of some of those back of the roster players that you're trying to figure out, guys 46 through 53 on the roster, maybe who's your number 4 wide receiver, number 5 wide receiver, those sort of things. So it matters from that standpoint. It matters that you start getting the feel of what it's like to prepare for a game and go to Pittsburgh, travel and get some of those things. I think all of those are sort of dress rehearsal type things that matter. As far as the actual game itself, as we kind of talked about on the podcast for today, the score, the outcome of the game, what the team actually does on the field. There's no game planning. You're not putting your starters out there for a significant period of time. You've got a mismatch of guys where there might be ones with twos with threes with fours. And like all of these guys are not players that are always going to be playing next to each other. There's a lot of, even if you have a couple of the starters out there, if there's a couple of non-starters, like they may not be at the same level or on the same page. So it's a hodgepodge of things that look like football, but aren't always football. So it's fun to see them out there. It'll certainly generate some stuff for us to talk about, which is great. And again, it is important for some of the back of the roster guys as they try to make this team. But in the actual outcome of things, think of last year when the Packers lost to the Bears in the playoffs. Nobody was like, you know what, that second preseason game or that first preseason game, if they just would have been able to clamp down a little bit more and play a little bit better in that one, everything would have changed. No, it's mostly irrelevant once the regular season comes along.
So in terms of figuring out the roster, I think these games are important. And I think there are some position groups on this team where there's a lot up in the air. There's a lot of uncertainty. I think the O-line, as Andy mentioned, and we talked further, if you missed that conversation with Andy, you can go back and find it in the podcast or rewind the live stream. The O-line has a lot to be decided, not necessarily at the tackle spots. Zach Bacco-Beweli and Jordan Morgan are your tackles. Now, we might not know how good Jordan Morgan is going to be, but we know he's going to be playing there. Zach Tom at this moment in time is your center. Okay. I don't know if he'll be awesome, but I'm pretty confident that he will provide representative center play at the level or more likely higher than the level they had last year. It's really more the guard spots. Aaron Banks at left guard is a known quantity, but he's not often healthy and sometimes not very good. Right guard is truly a massive unknown. And I think preseason games will go a long way in deciding not only who's starting at right guard, but then, the decision of the right guard trickles down to a lot of the other spots on the O-line, to backup spots, most notably, right? Like if Anthony Belton wins the starting right guard job, the swing tackle position's probably is it Darian Kennard or Donovan Kennard? Hopefully we don't have to say his name all year. Hopefully he doesn't have to play. But I think it's Darian Kennard. It's probably your swing tackle, right? Or let's say Jordan Morgan goes down. Maybe that means Zach Tom kicks to left tackle. Somebody else plays right. I don't know. That's a world in which Belton is your starting right tackle. What if Jacob Monk or Jagger Burton earn that right guard spot? Well, that means Anthony Belton is a man without a position, so he becomes a backup. At what spot is he best served to be a backup? Probably not guard. I would think Anthony Belton would maybe be best served as the swing tackle, or maybe they like Kennard more. If Jagger Burton and or Jacob Monk earn the right guard spot, that means the other one becomes probably your first backup for the 3 interior spots. So let's say Jacob Monk earns the right guard spot. Okay, not only does that settle right guard, but that also settles your first backup for left guard, center, right guard. That probably then becomes Jagger Burton. So it's a little bit of a butterfly effect. As soon as you start to settle one guy on the O-line, the other members, the other players, whether they're starters or backups, start to fall into place a little bit. I also think there's a lot to be settled along the defensive line, interior and edge. They have a lot of players that are intriguing. I don't know if any of them are good. I really question if any of them are really good. But just at edge, Brenton Cox, Denai Dennis Sutton, Nigelique Kelly, Aaron Mosby, Colin Oliver, Micah Parsons, Barron Sorrell, Lucas Van Ness. Lucas Van Ness, Barron Sorrell, Colin Oliver, Denai Dennis Sutton are all players that the Packers have drafted in the last 2 years, or in the case of Van Ness, 3 years ago. He's a class of 2023 guy. One or two of those guys just has to pop. And I think preseason games will give us a little bit of an insight into maybe the leader in that room, the leader in the clubhouse. If all of them are below average players. Packers are going to have a long year because Micah Parsons and Devontae Wyatt can't be everything. They can't do everything. But specifically on the edge, Barron Sorrell is a player I'm interested to watch in the preseason. Colin Oliver, we just don't know. He was hurt last year. I'm not really sure. Lucas Van Ness, I just have not heard great glowing things. We talked about this to begin hour number 2, right after Andy Herman joined us, because he's like, yeah, I haven't really seen it with Lucas Van Ness. He's looked like Lucas Van Ness. A little good and then a lot of meh. He's just kind of out there. Interior, the defensive tackles too, it's similar. Between McClellan, who they just drafted, Stackhouse, who's been around for a year or two now. Like, is there a player who's going to pop there? Got to find something. Again, at both the interior and exterior positions along the defensive line, I'm pretty sure there's a younger player ready to take a step somewhere in there. I just don't know which one. So that becomes a big story in a preseason game like tonight. And moving forward, I think the O-line and the D-line, I am skeptical that they are going to shift around starting corners, at least to begin the year. I don't know about week 6 or week 10 or week 14. I've seen at training camp over the last week that Keyshawn Nixon has been playing behind Benjamin St-Juste and or Brandon Cisse. I would be surprised if anyone other than Keyshawn Nixon is starting boundary corner week 1 against the Vikings. I think they're giving guys different opportunities and different looks. We can talk to Mike about this, I suppose, coming up in our next segment. I just think Packers fans have started to get their hopes up a little bit that Keyshawn Nixon is getting relegated to the bench. And I would be surprised. Now, they drafted Brandon Cisse for a reason. They signed Benjamin St-Juste for a reason. I thought the goal of the Packers at corner this last offseason was to add depth and to add a little bit more runway to this room, because Valentine and Nixon's deals are both up after this season. And even if Valentine and Nixon are both playing significant snaps at corner this year, they can't be the only guys on the roster because, well, come next offseason, you're going to be porked. And last year, they didn't have enough depth anyways. So if Nixon gets banged up or you want to bench Valentine because he's, not playing quality football like in the Baltimore game, they tried to bench Carrington Valentine and then they ran out of players because everyone else got hurt. You just need more players in that room. And it can't be, what's his name? Kamar Haddon. Players with some pedigree. Benjamin St-Juste is a player who's played in the NFL for a while. That's a pro. That's mostly a known quantity. Brandon Cisse is a second-round pick with real tools. That's not a Kalen King, bottom of the draft throwaway flyer pick. Like, that's a real player who you hope at some point is, playing significant snaps for you. So just beefing up that room, adding to that room, I guess I wish I felt like the Packers did a little bit more of that. I would have liked them to select another corner. I know they took Damani Jackson. That just doesn't really seem like a serious player at this moment in time. Maybe next year. Maybe in 10 weeks. Who knows? I just wish I felt a little bit more confident in the O-line and the corner room right now, considering adding depth and adding talent to both of those rooms was such a big part of this offseason. And I'm not sure they did a good enough job. I'm not sure that either is settled. But then again, it's August, so we're not really going to know yet. Bill and Wanakee on our Aaron Rodgers discussion earlier, some text coming in, 608-321-1670. Says, Rodgers this year and mostly last year, he seems like a little crusty old man. Maybe old age is mellowing him out a little bit. Do you mean, I see. I was like, wait, is a crusty old man a good thing? You said he seems a little less crusty of an old man. Well, I think getting out of the New York Jets organization was probably helpful, Bill. And I think to Zach's point in the last hour, probably also was a good perspective reset on Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy, I mean, you talk to people about how it ended in Green Bay. It was blood and water. Those two were, that relationship was cooked and booked. And time heals all wounds, but I also think time playing for the New York Jets, I think that would probably give Aaron Rodgers a little bit of a reset in perspective. Like, okay, it wasn't great with McCarthy at the end, but it can be a whole lot worse. And while there was maybe a little tension and maybe that thing had kind of run its course in Green Bay, like there's much worse coaches in much worse organizations playing for much worse GMs and much worse owners. Jets, right? So that's I think that was a very astute observation that Zach shared. It's like, well, yeah, maybe a couple years ago, a reunion between McCarthy and Rodgers didn't seem likely. And then Rodgers went to play for the Jets and thought, oh, actually, that Mike McCarthy guy actually kind of knows what he's doing. He's pretty good at his job. Madtown Ryan says Rodgers is a cheesehead through and through. Yeah, he does. He was romantic at the end. His last answer here, I'll play it one more time. His favorite memories in Green Bay. And I think this answer, this final comment from Rodgers, tells us a lot about who he is as a person. And I guess by extension, a quarterback. I'll give you my thoughts on this. But first, here's his answer. His memories that he thinks about most in Green Bay.
That's what makes it so much fun. Even here being 42 and not having the extended time with these guys, it's just you really love those moments when you're off and when you're joking. And
hold on, I'm looking for the question here.
Yeah, I know you are. But I'm not Valley. If you,
I think it was Steve McCarty.
I'm a little bit more sore than I should be after this.
Sorry, I thought I knew where this question and answer
at
was.
21, and now a full lifetime later, you're wrapping it up. What are you most thankful for with your career?
Definitely the people I got to do it with.
There we go.
That's what makes it so much fun. Even here being 42 and not having the extended time with these guys, it's just you really love those moments when you're off and when you're joking and playing cards and hanging out and just shooting the shit. That's what this game's all about. It's about the relationships, and I'm just most thankful for all the men and women who've been in my life through this game over the years. So many great people in Green Bay, in the entire organization, top to bottom. Just salt of the earth type of people, and I think a lot about the kind of the unsung heroes, the unknown people, the Larry Von Holsteins of the world, who was our white cap referee for so long at practice. We went hunting, actually, pheasant hunting a couple times together, became close. He's like a fabric of the team. I think about Larry McCarron, the Rock, just what a great dude he is, and how many hundreds of games he called to mind, and just always loved the interaction with him. The guys in the equipment room, Kevin Nelson and Tom Bakken and Red Batty and Brian Nearing and Tim Odie, and all the other understudies and obviously Andy, just so many great people that I got to meet over the years that never would have met without this game, and that I still consider friends. And then obviously all the teammates I've had over the years who had such a big impact on my life, and still talk to a lot of them, a lot of the quarterbacks I've been able to be around and help mentor, and who've mentored me, and I've learned stuff from them. But if you miss out on the relationships in this game, you're kind of missing the whole gist of what we're actually doing. Obviously, we're judged on our wins and losses and paid based off our production, but the thing that actually lasts the longest is those people that impact your life. And there's been a lot of, especially in Green Bay, that had a huge impact on my life. So think about those people a lot.
So I think this is very, very good perspective on a long career in the NFL. I also think that if you were to ask Tom Brady that question, he would give a very, very different answer. And I don't know that Tom Brady valued, certain relationships and certain things. I think Rodgers is a much healthier human being than Tom Brady. Not that Tom Brady is unhealthy. I think Rodgers' perspective as a professional athlete probably allowed him to be more relaxed and to smell the roses and to appreciate the gifts that the game of football gave him. Tom Brady was probably much more maniacal. I don't know that Tom Brady cared a good deal about any of that stuff. I think he was obsessed with winning and wins and losses and results, and everything else was just a byproduct. And I think Rodgers, wanted to win, and he was a fierce competitor. I think he smelled the roses in the NFL and his time in the NFL. And I don't know if Rodgers' approach or Rodgers' mindset prevented them from winning more championships or getting back to another one. I guess we'll never know. I just know that I listened to him say that and compare that with what I've heard from Tom Brady or what we know about Tom Brady or others. It's like, okay, yeah, makes a little sense. That tracks for me. And I'm also interested to see which way Patrick Mahomes goes now in the second half of his career. Does he do what Tom Brady did, which is get insane about health and fitness and just obsessive and almost a little weird? Or, does he go the other way? I've won a couple and, I'm going to sling the ball around and we'll see what we can make happen, type of thing. I think that's one of the more interesting stories of the next 5 to 10 years in the NFL is which way do we see Patrick Mahomes go? Does he go the Brady way or does he go the way of some other quarterbacks when they lose a little bit of their talent where it's like, well, a lot of people have stopped short, I think, of going full Brady, which has probably made them happier, healthier. Doesn't lead to as much winning. But I would agree with Madtown Ryan who texted in. He's a Packer through and through and a very romantic, sentimental son of a gun, which I appreciate. I also think they probably didn't win as much because of that whole thing. Mike Clemens is going to join us next. On the other side, thanks to the Bay Motel in Green Bay, we'll get the latest on what's going on in Green Bay. He's in Pittsburgh getting ready for tonight's game. We'll preview the game, too.
Ready?
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
How we looking? Welcome back to Bill Michaels Show. Sans Bill today. Bill will be back on Monday. Doing my best to keep some normalcy. And a big part of the normalcy of the Bill Michaels Show this time of year is Mike Clemens joining us to talk about the latest in Green Bay. And in the case of this afternoon, getting ready for tonight's preseason matchup. Packers first on their schedule. This one with Mike McCarthy, the Pittsburgh Steelers, Aaron Rodgers. Caught up with the Packers media yesterday. We've been picking at that a little bit. Mike's appearance is brought to you by the Bay Motel in Green Bay. Quiet, cozy, comfortable, and less than a mile from Lambeau Field. So you can give him a call, ask him any questions that you might have, 920-494-3441. Or Go online, baymotelgreenbay.com to make your reservation for a game this year or anything you got going on in Green Bay. And the Bay Family Restaurant is right there, which is super convenient. If you're getting up early, you got something to do in Green Bay, you just need a bite on your way. Beautiful. It's right there. Don't have to leave the building. Mike Clemens joining us now in Pittsburgh. Mike, you got there a little later last night than you said you thought you would. Crack of dawn or early the wee hours this morning?
Yeah, Grant, you know how people that, fly a lot and they say, oh, avoid O'Hara?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, avoid O'Hara. My God, what's going on down there? So yeah, a lot of flight delays. There was some weather in the Midwest yesterday morning, but boy, there was, when you looked at the board, like over half the flights were delayed for what reason. But we got here late last night and got up more this morning, and now we're getting ready to head to Acrisure Stadium. Used to be Heinz, down there by Three Rivers in downtown Pittsburgh for tonight's preseason game. 6:00 kickoff here in Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm. All right, I gotcha. So, I think for younger teams, Mike, the preseason is really juicy because you might have half a dozen, maybe 20 guys who are first year, second year. The rebuild is on. You're trying to pick out, who the best players are. And remember, that was the case for the Packers a couple years ago in Jordan Love's first year as a starter. Not really the case now. More a smaller pool of players maybe trying to make the team because they have more veterans now than they've had in years past, but still a group of players worth watching tonight.
They do. And, in past camps, I would probably have a list of 10 or 12 guys that I want listeners to look for tonight. And it's been a good camp. There are so many more veterans. There seems to be so many more positions already locked up in depth in certain areas that it's like, in today's report, I'm just going to stick with the top reminders for people. Because there's guys that flash, like a Jonathan Baldwin, who'd been on the practice squad, had a couple snaps last year, special teams. And boy, he comes back and looking really sharp, and he makes a couple of picks, and everybody's writing the Jonathan Baldwin story. And 2 days later, he has a knee injury.
Yeah.
And then Goody weighs him. We don't know how severe it is. Obviously, it looks like it was season ending. So unfortunately, there have been several of those kinds of stories. So let's just start with the top. Your Packers' top draft pick this year out of South Carolina, he's only 21 years old. He's 6 foot, 198, but man, he's like Xavier McKinney. He is a solid dude, and it's Brandon Cisse. And so we asked him, so it's your first NFL game, live action. What's your approach to this game against the Steelers? When you hear, McCarthy and Rodgers say, we don't have a game plan. We're just going to be running the basic stuff.
You trust your keys, trust your alignment, trust the things that, your coaches are telling you to do. And you don't do anything out of the ordinary. You do what you're supposed to do, and you read what you're supposed to read, and you try to go out there and make the plays that come to you. And it's just kind of how I approach it. And just every day just trying to get better at those things and one play at a time.
How do you think you've done in that regard so far? What do you think about the camp you've had?
I set a really high standard, so it's going. Obviously I got really high expectations for myself. I'm super hard on myself, and I'm just looking at the plays that I can get better from, and I'm excited for those. So obviously there's going to be moments where you see flashes and things like that, but there's a lot of growing pains I'm also going through, and I need to get better at those things. So I'm just excited to clean it up and continue to get better every day.
Mike, I saw a lot of tweets from camp this week about how players other than Keyshawn Nixon were taking first-team reps. So that was a little Cisse, a little St. Just. Is that normal camp churn and burn where different guys are going to get opportunities, or is it what a lot of Packers fans, I think, are hoping it is, which the Packers are maybe trying to replace and improve that spot over Keyshawn Nixon?
I would say, in my experience, it's okay, you've earned the job. Go over there and watch the kids play. Sure. I think that's what's going on. On the other hand, it's also it makes those first string guys get a little antsy. They get a little antsy because they see how good the dudes are right behind them, and man, it lights a fire under them. And I see this over and over again, especially under LaFleur. So I think that's what's going on there with 25. Looking at that on the sidelines.
And last year they didn't have a Brandon Cisse. Like, even if they had benched Keyshawn Nixon in the middle of training camp last year, just because he'd earned the job, it's not like they had a group of guys who were growing and developing and getting ready to replace him one day. So I know that room still isn't as full as I'd like it, but just the presence of Brandon Cisse signals something to Keyshawn Nixon now that wasn't being signaled a year ago.
And Carrington Valentine, who started out the early part of camp with an injury, and now you get to about a week before that first preseason game, and suddenly he's back on the field. It's amazing how those things, the pain suddenly goes away when it's 48 hours before the first kick. The other guy to look for is on the offensive line. And I'm telling you, if on the offensive team, and I'm telling you, if this guy was undrafted, we didn't know anything about him, I would have been talking about him since day 2. And that's number 32, Marshawn Lloyd, your running back, out of USC, 3rd-round pick. One injury after another, then, an emergency appendectomy a couple of years ago to try to get back on the field. And so after 2 years of injuries, and he got a couple snaps last year when we went down to Indianapolis for a joint practice, and he gets hurt after like a 3rd or 4th carry on a first down play at Lucas Oil Stadium. What are you looking most forward to this week, Marshawn, against the Steelers?
Football, yeah, I love it. It comes with it, but it's definitely cool to be able to fall on the ground, get hit, absorb a hit, break a tackle, make someone. It's been good to be able to just honestly just do them things again. We got one of the best defenses, I think, around. So being able to honestly play against them has helped me a lot to be able to just be ready to go. So I'm super excited for it. It's going to be fun.
He gave the same answer that I would have if I was him, Mike. Play football. Like everything else is, all the little things are great, but just the fact that he gets to go out on the field and play football, that's what I would be most excited for too.
Anything that's not a training room, a weight room, having to run on the sidelines with some coach with a harness on your back, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
Here's another guy that the coaches told us early on and after the drafts. Out of Kentucky, 6'4", 312 pounds, 23 years old, is Jagger Burton. Yeah, he's got a cool name, but man, he looks like a Corey Linsley. He looks like, a traditional Green Bay Packer lineman guy. Good, and he's knocking on the door for perhaps a starting right guard job if and whenever they get Aaron Banks back on the field again. So I went to him and I said, okay, so no game plan. It's your first NFL preseason game. You're going up against NFL players, at least the first string, if you're on the first team in those first 8 snaps or longer against, real deal Pittsburgh Steelers guys. What's your mindset going in Thursday night?
I think here, Coach Buck always preaches at the end of the day, if you do our technique, whatever whoever's in, you'll be fine. So I think for me, it's just, understanding my targets on certain plays, understanding who we're working to, and trusting what our coaches teach us. I think that kind of that makes me at ease, just knowing that I'm going to be in the best situation to win the rep off of what the coaches are telling me to do. So if I can execute their coaching points, then I know I have a better chance of winning the rep, especially going into it kind of blind in a way of not having a game plan and stuff like that. So I don't know, in a way it is kind of exciting just to be able to go out there and not have to think and kind of just cut it loose and play. Kind of feels like a high school type of mindset in that way of the no game plan stuff. So I'm excited.
Mike Clemens is here thanks to the Bay Motel in Green Bay. It's weird. Brandon Cisse and Jagger Burton kind of both commenting on that, like no game plan, no specifics. You just kind of go out there and play football, focus on your technique, focus on those things. The challenge for me, Mike, would be is if I'm just going out there and focusing on my technique, like that might not lead to the best football play in the actual football game. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you need to deviate from technique or you need to focus on something different that might be in a game plan in order to look good and pop and succeed on an actual field in an actual game. Does that make sense?
At the end of the day, you have to stick by your offensive line coach, Luke Butkus' rules. Like, okay, we really don't know what we're looking at here. And, the game clock is ticking down and, Jordan wants a snap or whoever else is back there, Tyrone Taylor. By the way, while I'm thinking about it too, let's not forget these 2 young quarterbacks you can look at. I like Kyle McCord, number 18, over number 13, Kyron Dromes, who will be in there quarterback later on tonight. But you like who lines up inside, who's over you, who's your right side, who's off the line. You've got to go through your progressions like that when you really don't have this kind of game plan. You're just out there to get physical with guys. Trey Smack is your kicker that you drafted out of Florida, and he seems to be building confidence. Last week in that interview I played with him that we did, when I asked him, I said, have you heard from Mason Crosby or Ryan Longwell yet? And he said, hadn't heard from Mason. Ryan Longwell's reached out a couple of times, so they were texting things back and forth. And Ryan Long will tell you in that Lambeau wind, or even at the practice field, kick it low and out, just like when you're just like as a golfer at a driving range, on to deal with windy conditions. So we asked him, because he's had his misses with that. That's when he goes 3 for 5 on making kicks on a windy night.
Just kind of trust yourself and, go what you know about the field and go what you know about what the wind's going to do. So I kind of sometimes I block out the wind. It's like a mental factor. So I just kind of hit a straight ball and hopefully it goes in.
Just got to focus on the contact, as we heard from Cam Accord, the new special teams coordinator last week. Mike, when we come back, maybe we can dip into a little bit of what Aaron Rodgers had to say. Or, no, we got one more cut. We want to hear a little bit from Matt LaFleur first before we take a break, right?
It's just because I hear Aaron Rodgers saying, "Oh no, I love being in the campus in the dorm with DK Metcalf as a roommate in a college dorm at St. Vincent."
Yeah,
a Latrobe, which is an hour away from the regular facilities and probably an hour or two away from his house. Like, come on, man! This is the guy who complained about St. Norbert's beds and all that. But it was Matt LaFleur that had to make that change after that long tradition. Now Jordan Love can go home and be with his new baby girl. And I think even second and third year guys, only the rookies, basically the guys that don't have a place, they stay at a team hotel, undisclosed location in Green Bay, and they don't do that dorm thing anymore like the Steelers still embrace. And I asked LaFleur, would you ever go back to that kind of a situation, a dorm for a camp, for the bonding purpose, for coaches and players to be together 24/7?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why you're always trying to create ways. I do think it's a little bit different now. If we were to go off site, then I think you get a ton of benefit from that. But being that we are here, those guys have no choice but to go back to the dorms. Like I was in LA, we did the same thing. We went down to Orange County, and there's no, you go back to the room, you hang out with the guys. And I think it could be a little bit different here in regards to some of these guys, especially with, I don't know if you've seen the number of guys that are fathers now, but there's a lot of babies around practice. And I think a lot of these guys, based on the time limits or whatever, the camp's not like what it used to be when you were here at, 7 a.m. until after 9 o'clock at night, where they would just go back and go to bed. I think we get out a lot of times 6:30. And these guys would go home and then just go back to go to sleep.
The schedule maybe doesn't make as much sense to go straight back to the dorms, especially when you got kids. You got a wife and kids who you're going to see less and less as time progresses. I guess why stash them in a dorm room and keep them away from their families. In the meantime, Mike Clemens is here. We'll take a break. We'll come back and we'll talk about tonight's matchup, especially the Steelers side, because it's going to be Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers, even if, Aaron Rodgers doesn't play. A lot of familiar faces. So we'll discuss that with Mike next.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Obviously, what happened last year sucked. It was very tough. I'm glad the timeline was what it was, and I was able to be good for week 1. But yeah, it's definitely one of those things you got to take into consideration going into preseason and everything. So I know me and Matt have talked, and I think the plan is to play some limited role this week and see how it goes going forward. But that's always something that you just got to be smart when you're out there, trying to avoid taking hits, things like that. But it is football.
Jordan Love on his injury in the preseason last year. Mike Clemens back. It's the Bill Michaels Show. His appearance is presented by the Bay Motel in Green Bay, baymotelgreenbay.com. Mike, I forgot all about that injury. So thank you for bringing this back to my attention this week. I think it's an important reminder, an important piece of information that, yeah, it's not as simple as, well, we'll just get a couple plays in preseason, no harm, no foul. Sometimes weird things happen. Quarterback hits his hand on a helmet, and then the next couple weeks of training camp are thrown all out of whack.
Good news for Malik Willis. He got the rest of
no kidding
training camp.
Yep.
Meanwhile, Jordan is out there, having thumb surgery for a torn tendon and, the thumb and a cast, and he missed most of camp. Now they got off to a great start still, weeks 1, weeks 2, and he had to wear that thing. But, and when you talk to these players, man, they just all say it's, there's something about going down in a preseason game, not even a practice, or not, going down in a competitive game in Denver against the Broncos and you lose Micah Parsons to an ACL. These preseason games, when the card comes out, all that off-season work seems to be such a waste.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think about, Jordy Nelson going down on this same field that summer. I mean, you could just see the air. They had just come off that season where they, lost by that onside kick to the Seattle Seahawks. And those guys today, 10 years later, they all say, that was our second Super Bowl ring. We had a great team there for a couple of years. And, 1 year we lose on with 8 different reasons that go wrong. And then the next year we lose Jordy. So we talked to Christian Watson about this. Hey, if Jordan Love's playing, that means you're going to be out there. How do you feel about playing a few series Thursday night against the Steelers?
I mean, however much they ask of us, honestly, if you ask me personally, if I think that we need to go out there and play in all 3 preseason games, I'd probably say I don't think so. But I mean, we also have a lot of growth to do as an offense, and obviously the coaches want to see some different things out of us. So just however much they ask of us is we'll be ready for however much that is.
Translation, Mike. He's saying I would rather not, but I guess I'm not going to fight him if the coach and quarterback want us out there. That's what I heard there.
Grant, I'm all for football, and I'm all for a general manager like Brian Gutekunst saying, I need to see what this guy looks like, in full contact up against other NFL players and under the lights, in game-like situations to decide if he's going to be a player. On the other hand, you got owners that want another game. They want to go 18. How about this? All right, so let's have 18 regular season games. So go back to an even number. Let's have 2 or 3 joint practices or family night practice sessions where the quarterbacks have red shirts, and it's like more of a scrimmage or something like that. But it's just a little bit, it's still a little bit under control, and you can still get those evaluations in. And let's understand that maybe the first couple of regular season games are going to feel like preseason, but at least it's some kind of football. So I asked Aaron Rodgers on a Zoom call he did with the Wisconsin media before I got on the plane yesterday about this topic.
There'll be 100 questions about great memories in 5 years for you, but the one I've got today's a little serious because tomorrow night I'm going to be thinking about the summer of 2015 at that field and how big of a loss Jordy Nelson was for that season, and your thoughts in your presser yesterday about, should the league listen to a guy like you, and is there something we can change here where the GMs can still evaluate players, but the games are all worth something? What do you think is there 1 or 2 ideas you could leave them with?
First of all, change prices. I mean, some of the prices for these preseason games without a lot of starters playing seems a little exorbitant. But, an old teammate of mine, Brady Papinga, I remember said this years and years ago, but it's basically what I said yesterday. To me, the most important evaluation film should be the practice film, because you're going against, if you're in the one group, you're in the 2 groups, sometimes you're going against some ones, but you're running the entire playbook. And there's so much fear around the league of competitive advantage in these preseason games. Nobody's running anything. And I think you see that now in the joint practices where there used to be, I say the first couple of years we did them, it was great work because you were going against teams that were running their installs and they weren't afraid to show things. But then with the nepotism around the league and different coaches on different places and the families of staffs, people are so afraid to show anything in practice because now you have that on film. Well, this is what they're working on. This is the new stuff. This is the defense. And now you're playing, Jonathan Gannon tomorrow night, and he's obviously putting in a first-year system, but we don't expect them to do any of the stuff that they're going to see in week 1, and that's just the way it goes. And we're not opening the playbook either. We got 8 installs plus all the miscellaneous things we put in. We're not going out there and showing the entire playbook, and that's just the way it goes. So what is the value of it? It's to see how guys react under the lights, when it becomes real, when there's actual tackling. But what's the value of it? I don't think it's super high because in 15 we lost our all-pro wide receiver, and we still went 10-6 that year and won a playoff game. But if you remember at the end of that season, like the last play, we had Jeff Janis, Jared Aberderis, and James Jones running down there to catch a Hail Mary because Tay was banged up all year and Cobby punctured his lung in the game, and Jordy was out since preseason. So there's not a tremendous amount of value that I see in it, but I'm not sure what the right thing to do is with that. They would probably, the league would say, well, we'll take 1 away if you just give us an extra regular season game.
Mike Clemens is here. I like the idea of the lowering of the ticket prices because they're still expensive and they still televise these things and fans are expected to, consume it and eat it up. I think all these teams in all these leagues, Mike, they're getting smarter than I think sports get too smart for their own good. Like, yeah, is it smart to put real plays on tape in a preseason game? No, because other teams can see it. But is that what's best for the fans who are watching? Is that what's best for the players who are playing? Probably not. Maybe not, to Roger's point.
Well, the players and the coaches. I mean, LaFleur said this, off to the side. Like, I can't believe we're charging those prices, and we're putting out third and fourth stringers out there. Guys are going to get cut in a couple of weeks, and people are paying for that. God bless them. But that's, Lambeau is unique, right? Because when you watch these other preseason games around the league, sometimes they're only a third full with fans. I'm going to skip ahead to this cut 11 because there's one story I want to cover for you. And regarding Aaron Rodgers, someone said, "Hey, so you're looking forward to being back here in 5 years when you're up for the Hall of Fame." He says, "Well, I haven't been invited yet."
Yeah, I noticed
So
that
he got
too.
that little dig. Like they haven't talked to me about retiring number 12 yet, but okay. So there's that. But he rattled off everybody, and I mean everybody from Red Batty on down. And he loves Green Bay. He loves a lot of those people around the staff. I can go on and on about that good stuff, the good side about Aaron and his connection. I want to tell a quick story about this. After that unbelievable loss to Seattle, Brandon Bostic, fumbles the onside kick, and all the other things went wrong. About a week to 10 days later, then we get the call say, "Okay, McCarthy's ready to talk to you guys with the season-ending press conference." Like, what went wrong? What do we do from here? Because they knew that they blew a shot at the Super Bowl. Russell Wilson threw 3 interceptions.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, we get all the way to Green Bay. We're waiting, and they're saying, "It's good. There's going to be a delay." Okay, it's been canceled. Coach McCarthy's had a family emergency. Like, well, what is that? His brother died that day. 47-year-old kid brother, Joe McCarthy, an attorney who had served in the state of Pennsylvania here in the Attorney General's office, was out playing racquetball and suffered a heart attack. And, he was the one that was in good shape. So it rocked that family. Then about 2 months later, Mark Marotta, who was a All-American basketball player from Marquette, then became an attorney and was sitting on the Bradley Center where the Bucks played. He was on their board of directors. Out of nowhere, he has a brain aneurysm, dead at 52. I didn't know that Mark Marotta was teammates with Mike McCarthy back here in Pennsylvania, back here in Pittsburgh. And Carly Marotta, who that used to be the sports director on Channel 27 in Madison. Now she's on TMJ4. She'll be on the sidelines tonight. She got to interview Mike yesterday because she thanked Mike for coming to her dad's funeral. So I just want to think about that. You lose to Seattle, then you lose your brother, then you lose one of your best friends in high school and a teammate on your high school basketball team. And, Carly will talk about that tonight when she does the preseason game. And so McCarthy was asked, "Is this going to be a little emotional at home? Your dream job of being the head coach of the Steelers at this third stage of your NFL career against your old team, the Packers?"
Definitely. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, our history there is obviously long, and the success we had there, and so you get to spots like this, the personal relationships are, the people you think about, obviously having personal and a professional connection to Green Bay is that's part of my life. But I'm more worried about our pre-snap penalties right now, to be honest with you. So that'll be my focus of playing good football, doing a good job for the players. I have a job to do too. So it's getting them prepared to play in the preseason game. I'm excited to see our young guys. I'm excited to go out there for the first time. I'm excited to walk out on the stadium. So I mean that's definitely real. But I'm really just trying to focus on keep moving the needle through training camp, and you frankly you kind of always feel this way going into the first preseason game.
Preseason game's kind of boring, Mike. Tonight I'll have a little extra juice just because it's the Steelers and Rodgers and McCarthy. And McCarthy's been back at Lambeau, in 2022. So I guess that connection was already made, but it's cool to see this coach and this team match up. And let us know anything that happens tonight that's interesting. Maybe we'll have a chance to connect tomorrow, but we'll see what players jump out and what we can glean from it all.
That's why the league put it on Thursday Night Football, and I'll give you an update this afternoon from the stadium.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Mike. Thanks for the time.
Thanks, Grant.
We'll get an update with Mike tonight in my evening drive program, if any of you are interested in listening. 4 to 6 on a lot of these same stations. All right, we'll break and wrap up the day on the Bill Michaels Show coming up next.
Covering Wisconsin sports on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Final segment here, the Bill Michaels Show. I'll be back at 4 tonight. A little more Brewers reaction. We'll get another check-in with Mike Clemens as he gets ready in Pittsburgh for Packers-Steelers tonight. I guess the game's on NFL Network. When Mike said they put it on Thursday Night Football, I thought, oh, this game's not on Prime, is it? They're not putting a preseason game on. It's technically not. Well, it might be free over-the-air television in Wisconsin. I'm not actually sure. I think I'm going to probably listen to a lot of it on the radio. One little NFL headline, just something to laugh about on the way out. There was a report from a Bears person who I hadn't seen or hadn't heard of, but I don't know every reporter, that came out yesterday that said that Indiana is a part of their deal for potentially getting the Bears stadium. They want some sort of Indiana imaging in the name of them. So, like, there would be a potential name change. And I kind of figured that wasn't true. The Bears did a press conference today explaining that that's not true. And I assumed, oh, they must have news on their stadium site. Still nothing. And I saw our friend Ryan Glassbeagle tweet, the Bears stadium saga is so funny. It's been like 5 years since they agreed to purchase Arlington Parkland, and they're legit not any closer to having shovels in the ground there or in Indiana today. Every press conference, there's nothing new. It is wild how long that's taken. And I always use the Northwestern Stadium as an example. A lot of private funding there, so I understand why it's faster. I understand. But the Northwestern Stadium was basically agreed upon and started the same time the Bears started this process. That stadium's done. I understand it's smaller. I understand it's privately funded, so it's different. But it's not like the Bears are a year back. The Bears they're not even close to being close, and they're 5 years into this thing. Kevin Warren, football genius. What a brilliant man at the helm there in Chicago. It's funny, the football operations has actually succeeded and risen above everything else. We'll pick this up in 2 hours starting at 4 if you're interested. Otherwise, the rest of you, one more day tomorrow without Bill until we talk again. 20 hours from now, time for us to go. Have a good one.